Hiya, and welcome back to Lyre. The game that teaches us that... The game that teaches us that Adrius... I looked at previous CGs. The game that teaches us that Adrius probably should not be king. He probably shouldn't. Right? Let me make sure that, we are, hiding adult content. And let's get started. Adrius lets out a sigh of relief and turns to Liz. Liz, the hunt isn't over yet. I've managed to bring the beast out of hiding, and we've granted them the prospect of hope. Now is when things get interesting. Send out the Heart's cavalry! Chapter 13, Day 50. Lyle. Oh, hiya. Lyle's padded feet clamber through the floor of the tunnel as he runs his paws along the rough walls. Each step he takes makes his legs feel like they're twisting into a knot. The long cloak draped around his body drags on the damp floor, the hem soaked in the cold mud. The long dark cape underneath also becomes lined with the damp stain as it's pulled across the wet surface. Hiding all over the castle and town has been a struggle on his body, having not eaten in days and barely getting any sleep. Still, his face is determined and his stature looks as strong as ever. The armor underneath his shroud isn't as heavy as the ornamental set he wears when stationed about the castle, Haya, which helps with getting around in the cramped tunnel. With every stride, his pace becomes faster, almost like one would be when, can't fucking talk. Almost like when one would be excited for something around the corner of a long hall, and as they round it, they feel like they forgot how to walk. But instead of being excited, Lyle is filled with anxiety and fear. He overheard the guards. He knows what's going to happen. The cruelty of it all. Lyle had only ever read about such events like this in books, but to think Adrius would reenact such a thing. In the dark, he can see the door at the end of the tunnel approaching him. Barely visible cracks of light shine from around the door, and Lyle rushes to it in a desperate manner. Timing what he has planned is risky and almost impossible, but it's better to be early than too late. And yet he stops as he reaches the door, one paw resting on the handle, keys in the other. What he's about to do is very dangerous. But thinking about what would happen if he doesn't even try forces him to shove the key into that hole and pull upon the handle. At first it doesn't budge, which sends a slight wave of terror through his body, but after pulling harder he throws the door open and steps into the Western Great Hall, close to the kitchens. As his bare feet touch the cold stone floor, and the door closes with a thud that echoes up the corridor, Lyle prepares himself for what's about to happen. He breaks into a fast walk down the hall, heading straight ahead. As he passes a few junctions, he notices a few people walking by out of the corner of his eye, but they don't pay him any mind. His face is covered by the hood of his cloak, with a thick scarf wrapped around his muzzle. To anyone else, he'd look like he just came from outdoors, less suspicious and more like he was just dressed for the winter. It also helps that he's not the only male above average height wandering the castle. When he's around Liz, Adrius, or Leaf, he certainly stands out, but he blends in everywhere else. The hall bends and turns into a storage room as he stands over a wooden balcony, stairs to his right leading down to the main floor. Barrels of supplies and tools are strewn about with chairs and boxes stacked against the walls. He's tempted for a moment to take some of the tools, but everything in the bag slung on his back should help for now. It's better to travel light. There's a few servants who appear to be milling about, but Lyle pays them no mind. He quickly descends the stairs that break beneath his feet, making his way to the ground below. Some of the servants look at him but don't raise concern. He moves past them to the end of the room, which leads to a small hallway. Okay. He's taken this route many times, but it's usually more crowded and lively. Once he reaches the end of the hall, he emerges into a room just outside the courtyard where the stables are. There's saddles and water buckets placed around the room, and it's a lot more clean than he remembers. Fuck. Well, we're fucked. Lyle's heart sinks, and before it can hit the bottom of his stomach, the guard assisting the headsman spots him. It's the lynx that was in Richard... I accidentally called him Richard! Fuck! It's the lynx that was in Richter's cell when he came down into the dungeons to get him. Okay, so, Lyle is trying to get a horse. And he's trying to get a horse. They're standing on the other side of the room, the headsman carrying a saddle. The door to the courtyard is off to his left, but Lyle's already been seen. There's a look of shock and confusion on his face for a moment, but it quickly turns into a look of fear. The captain. Lyle brings his voice to a sharp whisper. Listen to me. You have to let me pass. The headsman stands over in the corner, still holding the saddle, a confused twist to his mouth. Lyle looks back at the guard, his paw grasping the grip of his sword. I don't mean to... Before Lyle can finish his sentence, the guard rushes forward, but instead of going for Lyle, he runs for the door. His paw is placed firmly on the grip of his blade. It's the captain! No! Lyle draws his sword, the Vecrite blade ringing as it slides out of the scabbard. Before he even knows what he's going to do, he's already doing it and with full intent. It happens in an instant, but to Lyle, it's as if time slowed down. As the lynx makes a break for the door, Lyle jumps to the side, bringing his sword back and swinging it into the nape of his neck. It cleaves into the back of the lynx's head just underneath their skull and cuts deep, thick red blood squirting out from the open flesh. The wound is so deep that Lyle almost cleaved the lynx's entire head off from behind with a single swipe. The guard immediately crumbles to the floor, his plate armor clattering as he hits the floor. Part of his body slams into the wall, carried by the momentum of rushing to the door. He makes no noise, just laying there silently as the blood gushes from the back of his neck. Oh shit! It pulls onto the ground at Lyle's feet, and as the puddle reaches his toes, he staggers off, breathing heavily as the adrenaline wears off. He just took a life. For the first time in all his years of living, he finally had to kill someone. Or did he have to? No, there wasn't any other way. He wants to cry or shout, but he can't do any of that. If he were to stop and think too hard about any of this, it could mean life or death for both him and Richter. He thought he was prepared to take a life in order to make this plan work, but he wasn't. Nothing prepares you for that. Training to be a soldier, a squire, a knight. How could anyone ever be prepared for something like this? Lyle wants to retch onto the floor, but his stomach is so empty that he feels like nothing would come out. Lyle looks up at the headsman, expecting him to run or even attempt to cut him down. The headsman just stands there, staring at Lyle with a concerned face. Nothing pitiful, but it's definitely not the face of a man pleased with what's happened. Lyle swallows, his mouth dry as he addresses the headsman. Do you mean to stand in my way as well? His heart is banging away against his chest, and he can feel his plans crumbling to pieces. The headsman stares back at him, those golden eyes shining like the moon as he stands there silently. A sad smile graces his face as he drops the handle of his great axe, holding it out in Lyle's direction. I am a tool for the justice here. He pauses, taking a step back. But above all, I am a servant of Tigran.
The body has been discovered!
I will not stand in your way, Lyle Reed. Richter. It's impossible trying to separate my dreams from reality. Even harder to separate my dreams from visions. Visions of past lives and others' lived experiences. They all swirl into the center of my thoughts like water flowing down a drain. Like the mind's eye. I have been falling in and out of consciousness for what feels like months. Years? I hope not. I hope that I'll wake up any moment now and everything will be fine. Lyle will be lying next to me in a warm bed, his pretty eyes closed as he softly snores. How it feels to chew 5 gum. His large yet eloquent paw holding mine in a loose grasp. Once the dreams end, this is all I wish I could wake up to. I could be anywhere at any time as long as it's with him at my side. The one person left in this world that I truly feel I can trust. All I can do is wait. I can't even remember much of what's happened. It's like nothing's happened. Did it ever happen? Through each of the visions, all of the dreams, I'm enveloped by the world around me. I lay on a bed of fur, my limbs aching, a stinging pain flowing over my back like river rapids. A cold breeze is tugged over my skin like a blanket, twisting and tugging around me. My mouth feels dry and the icy wind kisses my lips. I can't really hear anything over the screams of silence in my mind. Everything smells warm. Like the dry heat of a fireplace mixed with the smells of burning wood. I can also smell crisp grass and trees. Is this my mind playing tricks on me? Filling my closed eyes with dreams and apparitions, but also triggering my other four senses. It's not as overwhelming as the visions, though. They pass by in an uncontrollably fast manner. If I try to slow them down and focus, it becomes harder to think. I don't know what is happening. Are we dying? It's not just that, though. It's like I become lost in them. The visions take hold and I feel frozen in place, only able to watch, but unable to comprehend. Like some sort of inanimate object. It feels like hell has grabbed me by the arms holding me in place. I'm scared to give in. Yeah, but no, my laptop does not like this. It does not like this. But as each moment passes, I wonder if that's my only way out. Letting the mind's eye take full control. After holding out for so long, maybe that's all I can do. Okay. Hopefully stream is stable for a bit. Raynar flinches as lightning strikes over the horizon, fighting against the fireplace and candles to light up the room. He stands in the corner, looking out the window as his heart bangs against his chest. Chewing on the hard tips of his fingers, he bounces his leg, his eyes darting away from the window as he hears Elena let out another cry. As she lays there, breathing heavily, all he can do is stand there, unable to help. Her midwife, Ginny, stands by her side, calmly speaking to her while holding her hand. Handmaidens run from the bed to the door, assisting in any way they can while making sure everything goes as planned. The doctors had to be called, which is never a good sign. It wasn't a good sign last time. Dr. Oscar and his assistant, Leaf, stand by the bed. They're very focused on their work, trying to be quick and careful. Deep breaths, my queen. Deep breaths. Ginny demonstrates for Lena, breathing in slowly and then exhaling in a steady way. Lena attempts to follow her pace. My queen, you have to push. I understand there's pain, but you can do it. She lets out another scream which circles around the room like a terrible wind. The longer this goes on, the harder it is for Raynar to stay calm. This is their third attempt at having a child. He hoped for her sake that this time would be different. Lena wanted to give him an heir so bad, but each time they go through this, it kills a part of him. He can only imagine what it does to her. He observes as Leaf runs to her side, a small bowl of medicine to help with the pain being tipped into her mouth. As Raynar watches her struggle and shout, rain pounding against the window, one thought rings out through his mind above all the others. This will be the last time. No more attempts after this. The idea of putting her through this pain over and over again always ties his stomach into knots. Her moans of pain grow quiet as the contractions pause, and as they do, the rain grows louder. Raynar can feel chills over his whole body, and he notices the numbness growing around his limbs. Ray. Get Ray. His eyes look in her direction, but he's staring off into space, lost in the thoughts of everything that can go wrong. My king, she wishes to speak with you. Raynar snaps out of his trance, looking down at Ginny as she stands off to the side. He rushes over to Elena and brushes his hand on her cheek. Kneeling down at her side and grasping her hand in his. It's okay, Lena. I'm here. I'll be here through it all. He makes sure to keep eye contact as she stares up at him, her eyes tired with flickering eyelids. I know you will. I'm trying, Ray. I really am. He rubs the palm of his hand against hers while shushing her softly. I know you are. Do not push yourself too hard, my love. Leaf, I need you over here. Yes, of course. Leaf rushes over to Oscar's side, helping with something behind the linen draped over Elena's legs. Raynar continues looking at her, making sure she knows he's there. I will give you the air you need, Ray. I promise you this. Even if... None of that! Everything is going to be fine, Lena. You're doing great. Steady your breathing now. She lets out a sharp yelp, then proceeds to groan in pain, the noise growing louder as it goes on. Raynar holds her hand tightly, brushing her cheek, trying to get her to follow his breathing as Ginny was before. Her face twists into a painful expression which rips his heart in half. He takes a moment to look up and sees Ginny on the other side of the bed, holding her other hand. Oscar and Leaf stand at the end of the bed, leaning down. Oscar, what's happening? I can see them. The child is breached. Elena lets out another howl of pain and Raynar catches himself squeezing her hand tightly. He loosens his grip, but as he does, she clasps her hand around his tightly, squeezing even harder than he was. Deep breaths, my queen. The babe is almost through. Raynar wants to hug her, pull her into a tight embrace and tell her everything is going to be okay. He wishes to take all of the pain away from her and deliver it onto himself. But all he can do is sit there and hold her hand, repeating the only phrases he can think of that would help. Deep breaths. Everything is going to be okay. You're doing fine. Ginny, come here quickly. It's happening. She lets out another scream, a scream that seems to last for hours. Then she falls back into the bed, her body sinking into it, exhaling and closing her eyes. They're here. A wave of relief flows over Raynar upon hearing the words. As Oscar and Leaf take care of the child, removing them from Elena, Raynar holds her hand, tears falling from his eyes onto the clean linens which she lays upon. Handmaidens run about, carrying bowls and cloth, making sure Oscar and Leaf have everything that they need for the process. Elena slowly opens her eyes, giving Raynar a weak smile. Before he can become lost in it, the noise around him drowns out his other senses. Raynar looks up, watching as Leaf works with Oscar, Ginny standing over them and assisting in any way she can. Two handmaidens run out of the room in a rush, others staying behind attempting to attend Elena. Through all of the commotion and the pounding rain on the window, Raynar can't help but notice one thing. Not a single cry can be heard from the baby. What's wrong? Your Majesty, Dear, what's the matter? Elena looks at him with an anxious gaze, her eyes now wide open. The baby is not breathing properly. Before Oscar can continue to explain, Elena lets out a moan. No! This can't happen! Ray! Ray, you have to do something! Just then, Ginny and Leaf rush to her side, Ginny holding her arm. My queen, please, you need to calm down. The good doctor knows what he is doing. Everything is going to be fine. Elena doesn't give in for a moment and begins to yell, No! Let me see them! Let me hold my child, please! Raynar notices Leaf has his winged hand placed on Elena's shoulder, but instead of looking at her, he looks at Oscar, standing off on the other side of the room. He has the fawn placed on a clean blanket in a small cart. He's examining the child, carefully placing his hand upon their small chest and feeling around. I'm not going to answer that, Raj. I'm not going to answer that. The child lays there, motionless. Not a sound to be heard from them. No! Why is my child not crying? Raynar feels like the world has come to a stop. There his child sits, laying on a table with his little hands clasped at their sides. His wife writhes in anguish upon the bed, their bed. This is their bed, their room, their home, their den. The place where they would bring their child into this world. Every noise around him sounds distant and far away. His wife grips his hand tightly as his arm sits limply at his side. Just then, through all of the noise and chaos, a small voice rises above it all. I know what to do! Elena turns her head in the bird's direction, his gaze still trained on the child. Leaf, please attend to the queen. I know what to do! Doctor, please, let me help. This is a very rare case, but I've seen this before. Leaf, there's nothing to be... The child is not breathing! Just then Elena shouts across the room. Let him help! Oscar! You let him save my child, or I swear upon Tyrant, I will make sure you feel double the pain I've felt on this day! Yes, my queen. Leaf rushes to Oscar's side, and Oscar steps back as Leaf gently picks up the child in his hands. Ray! Raynar's attention is turned back to his wife, her face serious yet full of concern. Stay with me. I need you. Of course, Lena, of course. He leans down and kisses her on the forehead, running his hand up and down her arm. Are they a prince? Her voice changes to a soft tone as she weakly asks this question. Raynar looks up at Leaf, who is doing delicate compressions on the child's chest, rubbing up and down slowly. Our child. Are they a boy or a girl? Leaf doesn't break away from their work for a moment as they answer. You have a beautiful little prince, my queen. Raynar looks down at Elena, but she just stares at the ceiling, swallowing as her body trembles. A boy, Lena? We've had a son! She doesn't reply, just continuing to stare at the ceiling, blinking away tears that roll over the fur of her face and onto the pillow beneath her head. We've had a little boy! Raynar can feel his own tears begin to spill from his eyes. His voice shakes as he tries to get the words out. The happiest moment of his life hangs in front of him on a string, taunting him. Hanging by a thread, ready to be ripped away at any moment. But as the dark thoughts begin to close in on him like a cloud of smoke, a noise blows it all away. Ginny and Oscar run to Leaf's side as the boy breaks out into a fit of crying. It sounds like a squealing pig, but to Raynar it's the most wonderful thing he's ever heard. The sound of his son coming back to life. He stands up and looks in the direction of the noise and sees Leaf holding the baby in his arms, rocking him slightly before passing him to the doctor. You've done it! Oh, praise God! Ginny begins to help Oscar wrap the boy in a clean, minty green blanket. Leaf rests his winged hands onto the edge of the cart, staring at the floor as he breathes heavily. Raynar wants to run over and lift Leaf up, pulling him into a tight embrace, but he looks down at his wife first. He's never seen her look more relieved. It's as if every worry in the world has left her thoughts, replaced with the sound of their crying child. Ginny quickly brings the boy over to Elena and passes him to her. Well, shit. No! No! I feel bad. I'm with you there. Like, yeah. It's great that he's alive. It's amazing that he's alive. And I think it makes sense that he's the villain. However, I don't like that he's the villain. Ginny quickly brings the boy over to Elena and passes him to her. You don't need to check on him? We can check on him later, but I've never seen a healthier child. Welcome back. For now, you may hold him. Elena takes the boy in her arms and cradles him, tears of joy staining the fur of her cheeks. Oh my God, Ray, look at him! He's perfect! He has your nose, Ray, look! Raynar lets out a laugh, which comes out more like a gasp, the taste of his tears invading his mouth as they float down the corners of his muzzle. The boy rests in her arms, his little brown eyes open ever so slightly as his nose twitches. He cries and cries, throwing his little arms about with tiny clasped hands. His little hooved feet kick the inside of his blanket sporadically. Yes, I see that. He has your beautiful eyes. What? She lets out a laugh and cradles her hand beneath his head. Raynar leans down and kisses her on the head a few times, drunk with relief. He then turns to Leaf, who is now standing behind him near the end of the bed. You and Oscar helped assist my wife when she was in pain. But most of all, you saved my son. I can never fully repay you for what you've done tonight. Leaf fiddles with his wings, looking down at the ground after being praised so highly. I was just doing my job, Your Majesty. There's no need to Raynar kneels down and pulls the small bird into a tight hug, taking care not to crush him. When he pulls away, the bird is a little dazed, but clasps his wings together, giving a large smile. Ray. Raynar turns around to look at Elena, who's still cradling their son in her arms. We have to name him. Give our son his name. Raynar stands and walks back over to Elena. Her smile's soft, but her eyes are happier than he's ever seen them. It's not mouth to mouth. I'm pretty sure it's just chest compressions. Just then the sound of thunder rattles against the window along with the rain pounding against it. Shadows of the water droplets sliding down the window scatter across the floor and the canopy of the bed, creating a mesmerizing effect. Raynar looks down at his son, his chubby little arms flailing at his sides as he wails. He's small, even for a baby, but Raynar sees great strength hidden inside of the tiny body. The strength of a king. Raynar smiles and reaches down, the boy grabbing his finger with his tiny hand. You fought hard to come into this life, little one. You have your mother's strength. The boy stops crying for just a moment, but still wiggles about in his mother's arms. Child of the storm, your name will be Adrius. Elena smiles, brushing her hand gently over one of Adrius' small ears. A worthy name for a worthy king. Sitting by the pond, Lyle tosses a small rock into the water, watching as the ripples make their way up to the edge, distorting his reflection. He's lost in thought, tail aimlessly brushing over the blades of grass beneath it.
My mother said not to throw rocks in the pond.
Lyle looks up at Adrius, the small deer hanging by his hands from a tree limb, just a short distance off the ground. Adrius had asked Lyle to come outside with him since his parents were meeting with Sir Runar. Sorry. Lyle says this in a way that it almost sounds like a question. Yeah, they can. Yeah, I think that might have been true.
She says you might hit a fish on the head. I told her the fish swam way too fast to get hit, but she said to just not do it.
Adrius falls from the tree limb, landing on his hooves with a bit of a wobble. Ah! The baby! The baby! Look at the baby! Look at the little baby man! 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 Look at him! Look at him! He's just so... He's so cute. I just... He's so cute! He's so cute and adorable. Huh? I just want to smash his face in and then drop kick him into the sun. That's called cuteness aggression. That is called cuteness aggression. No, I'm not going to be like Kyle Broflovsky. I'm not going to kick the baby. But like, I just want to make sure that I'm not the only one who thinks this. Where like, you see something adorable and you just want to punch its face in.
That's a devil kick it.
That is cuteness aggression. Yeah, let's get back to the story. Let's get back to the story. Soul Creek updates tomorrow. Let's get back to the story.
I think she just doesn't want all of the rocks ending up in the pond.
Makes sense to me. Adrius turns around to look back up at the tree, and Lyle notices that the back of his shirt is covered in leaves.
Here, you got leaves all over your back.
He gets up and bends down, brushing the leaves off of the soft fabric.
You sure love climbing trees, don't you? Yeah, but doesn't every kid my age?
Not as much as you.
I suppose.
Adrius looks back up at the top of the tree. The sunlight shining down through the openings, casting spotted shadows on the two of them. Birds chirp in the deep parts of the branches. The noise ringing through the leaves and bouncing off of the water below. I am tempted to. I am tempted to read the whole update tonight. Same with Soul Creek. Read it all in one night. And bouncing off of the water below.
When I'm up there, I can see everything. Not just what's over the wall, but everything beyond the village, too. You should try it.
Lyle laughs and shrugs. I've tried climbing before. Heights never agreed with me.
Well then, I guess you won't be getting one of these then.
Adrius holds out his hands, showing off 2 ripe dragon apricots, which he had knocked onto the ground from the tree. Lyle goes to reach for one quickly, but Adrius pulls him away.
Come and get them.
Adrius tries to break off into a sprint, almost tripping over himself. Before he can get far, Lyle's already standing into a lunge, snatching an apricot from Adrius's hand.
I shall
Hey!
not worship it. He's not my king, he's not my father, he's not a friend, he is just an impostor that works at Denny's. For thine is the kingdom, for the power and the glory forever, amen.
What is with you and Denny's? You said for me to get it. Lyle says this while gesticulating with his head in Adrius' direction, plucking the thorn stem off of the fruit. Adrius sighs and sits down in front of the pond.
Next time I'm not getting you one if you're not going to play.
That's okay. Soon I'll be tall enough to reach them from the ground. Lyle steps back near the tree, leaning against it while taking a sloppy bite out of his fruit. The juice bursts from the opening in the skin, coating his lips in orange liquid. Just how tall are you going to get? Lyle thinks for a moment before answering, drumming his fingers on the skin of the fruit.
210? Wow. It's how tall my father is. You know, I'll probably be around his weight.
Adrius lays back on the grass, looking up at the sky.
One day I'll be as tall as my father.
I'm sure you will. You're already well on your way to looking like him. Adrius tilts his body to look at Lyle, who gestures with his hand to the top of his own head between his ears.
Oh yeah.
Adrius touches the tips of his small horns, rubbing them carefully.
Mother says they actually came in very early. Nobody expected them for another year or two.
Lyle smiles, watching as Adrius neatly brushes the fur around his horns down with his hands. He remembers how he felt the exact same way when his mane started to come in. By the time your parents and I are back, I wager they'll be twice as tall. Lyle expects another excited bout of boasting from Adrius, but instead is met with silence. Then he watches as a small deer's face twists into a frown, his lower lip quivering. Hey, wait, I'm sorry! What's wrong? Is it something I said? Adrius exhales through his nose and sits up, looking behind him where Lyle stands. No, you didn't do anything. I'm scared of Mother and Father going to Driz. He scoots his legs closer to himself, hugging them as he does. Don't even worry about it, Adrius. They won't be gone long. It's a little bit scary, I know, but you'll be fine. I know that I'll be fine. What if they aren't? Lyle's hands drop down to his sides, the fruit still cradled in his palm. What do you mean? Adrius takes a deep breath and starts talking in a fast manner. So 2 weeks ago, Mother told me Auntie Charlotte's to play with John. We had lots of cake and it was all really good. Really, really good. Anyway, Auntie Charlotte was talking with Mother about some things, and at one point Mother sent us away. We hid and listened, though. Adrius. I know. Just listen. Auntie Charlotte was telling her about how she heard from your friend Eden's father that he was almost attacked on the road to Driz. What? Lyle drops his food on the ground, but he doesn't get the chance to mourn the loss of his treat. Is he okay? I said that he was almost attacked. By what? Robbers. They tried to catch him in the canyon south of Holmes End, but he managed to escape them. That's the northern run. That's the road you'll be taking. Nobody is going to steal from us. I'm not an idiot, Lyle. They do more than just steal. Lyle can tell how afraid Adrius is from his voice alone, the way it shakes with each word. Adrius. A couple of bandits aren't going to be a threat to us all at all. They wouldn't dare attack the king's own entourage. Hundreds of armed men will be guarding your parents, but if you ask me, a good 10 would do. Lyle leans back against the tree, lightly scratching his claws into the bark. Fear is a self-fulfilling prophecy, Adrius. Ah! You shouldn't have to worry about something like that. But the way Charlotte described it, I wish I could come too. Lyle scuffs the heels of his feet against the grass, looking up at the branches of the tree. So do I. But that's not my place. The air grows silent, and before Lyle can let things get too quiet for the little deer, he tries to assure him. Lord Bryn wants to use this as a learning opportunity for me. I'll make sure your parents' carriage doesn't do so much as hit a bump in the road. You mean it? Adrius whips around, hands placed firmly on the grass beneath where he sits. Of course. You promise? Lyle walks over to him and sits down, resting his paw on the small deer's back. I promise. Adrius leans into him, his head resting against Lyle's side.
That makes me feel better. You're a prodigy when it comes to using a sword. I watch you duel in the courtyard all the time from my chamber window.
All the time?
Mm-hmm.
Adrius nods his head, poking one of his horns into the side of Lyle's arm. Lyle gulps, thinking back to the time he snuck Eden into the courtyard with him to teach him the different forms he'd learned. One would hope Adrius didn't see that.
Okay, well...
He coughs into his fist, leaning back a bit.
I'm certain that everything is going to go as smooth as butter. Thank you.
They sit there for a moment, and Adrius already decides to jump to another topic.
Do you want to go to Auntie Charlotte's with me later? She promised me lemon cakes last time I saw her.
Lyle shifted in his seated position after hearing this. Lemon cakes sound great right now, but he already has a prior engagement.
Sorry, little guy, but I'm going to see Eden later. Maybe next time.
Lyle stands up from the ground, wiping the grass and dirt from the seat of his trousers. Adrius shifts in his rested position and turns toward the entrance to the garden.
Mother!
Adrius gets to his knees and rises from the ground, wiping the grass and dirt from his legs. Lyle turns around and sees Queen Elena, followed by a few handmaidens. She turns and stops them at the entrance, letting them know with a simple hand gesture that she doesn't need to be followed.
Yo, mamas!
Oh, she looks beautiful.
Hello, sweetie. I see you're having fun. Yup.
The deer gallops up to her and she takes him in her arms, patting his head with her hand. She looks at Lyle, who gives a small bow in her direction while grinning. She smiles back at him with that smile so warm it could melt ice.
Hello, Lyre. I'm glad I was able to find you out here. I figured I wouldn't have to wait until I knew if you weren't out here before finding a servant to fetch you.
Lyle scratches the back of his ear shyly and gives a sheepish grin. See, no. She wouldn't be able to turn me straight. She would not be able to turn me straight. That honor belongs to the pink wolf in Remember the Flowers. She can turn me straight. Or possibly even that, Regara from Far Beyond the World. I think that's her name. Regara. Those two can turn me straight. Unfortunately, Elena cannot turn me straight. Crystal and Regara, thank you. Thank you, Raj, thank you. Crystal and Regara might be able to turn me straight. Elena, no. I'm sorry, no. But she is beautiful. She is pretty. I will give her that. I will give Atmac that. She is pretty. She is very pretty. Lyle scratches the back of his ear shyly and gives a sheepish grin.
Is there anything I can help? I got this for you.
Adrius holds up the fruit in his hand, reaching as high as he can. Lyle had wondered why Adrius wasn't eating it. Elena smiles down at him and takes the fruit.
Perfectly ripe. You're so thoughtful. Thank you, sweetie.
She leans down and kissing the top of his head.
Adrius, why don't you go and play by the berry bushes for a while? I need to speak with Lyle for a moment.
Adrius takes a moment to respond, but eventually agrees.
Sure.
He runs off towards the bushes and sits down in front of them, probably looking for bugs. Lyle shakes his attention away from the boy and turns back to Elena, who looks as if she's excited to tell him something.
Raynar and I spoke with Sir Runar about certain things that need to be looked after while we're gone. However, we also brought up Lord Bryn's proposal with Sir Runar.
You did?
Yes, and I'm happy to tell you that he thinks it's a great idea.
Lyle claps his hands together firmly, almost jumping for joy. So when I get there...
For a few days, you should be getting special training from the leader of Drizz's Palace Guard, Captain Drazan.
Oh god, this is dream come true! He's the greatest spearman in all of Driz! They say he could throw his spear over 30 meters and still never miss his target. I wonder if I can beat him in a duel. Lyle places his paw over his muzzle, shutting himself up. Elena simply laughs, shaking her head while tossing the fruit Adrius gave her between her hands. She doesn't seem to mind Lyle gushing about his hero.
Yes, he certainly has a reputation. But you'll do well to remember that you won't just be playing with swords the whole time. He's going to teach you other things. I know you hope to be a knight one day, so you'll benefit from paying attention to his lessons.
Lyle places his paws behind his back and looks down sheepishly. I know, I understand. He looks back up at her, practically beaming. Thank you so much! Lyle steps forward and gives Elena a hug. She's surprised for a moment, but then easily returns the embrace, patting him on the back softly.
You're welcome, Lyle. You should go and thank Sir Runar as soon as you can.
Lyle pulls away from the hug and can barely contain his excitement. He assumed the entire trip would just be following Lord Bryn around wherever he went, helping him the whole time. But to be able to meet and train under Drazon Nova? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity! I believe he actually wanted to speak with you as soon as possible. I suggest you go find him. Right! Lyle quickly bows to Elena before running up the path, but he stops running and turns to Adrius. Bye, Adrius! Adrius has a blue butterfly on the top of his wrist and looks up, waving at Lyle. Goodbye! As Lyle walks through the archway leading back into the castle, he turns around and sees Elena sitting with an excited Adrius as the butterfly lands on his nose. Elena jumps in her sleep after hearing a knock at the door. Raynar, sleeping like a rock, doesn't move one bit. She slides out of bed, her nightrobe flowing behind her as she walks to the door. Mother? Once she hears the voice of her son, she pulls the handle and opens the door for him. Sweetie, what's wrong? Can you not sleep? He stands in the doorway, his little ears turned back. I had a really bad dream. The boy looks ready to burst into tears, but seems to be holding them back pretty well. Did you not tell the maid? I told her I wanted to see you. How did you sneak past the guards? There's no sneaking around Sir Bjorn. They let me up here. She turns around to look at Raynar, who still hides under the covers, his antlers and ears poking out from the top of the blanket. He continues to sleep, snoring softly like he always does. Okay, come on in, but we have to be very quiet. Your father is sleeping and needs his rest for when we leave tomorrow. Okay. He whispers this, giving a tiny smile before quietly walking into the room. After closing the door, she takes his hand and leads him to the sofa by the east window. Now, what was your dream about? She sits down on the sofa and Adrius hops onto her lap, resting his head against her. It was a normal dream at first. A lot of weird things were happening. None of it made any sense. There was one part that scared me a lot, though. I was outside playing in the garden. The grass in the garden was all yellow, though. Dead grass? No. Yellow as if it was made of gold. All the plants were like that, too. There was this anthill. It was in between two bricks on the path. I almost stepped on it but stopped myself. Then I saw me. What do you mean? It was just me. Adrius holds her hand tighter and Elena places her chin upon the top of his head. He walked up to where the anthill was holding a wooden pail, smiling at me in a creepy way. Inside of the bucket was fire and he poured it into the anthill. The fire moved like water as it poured down the top entrance. When he did this, the ants crawled up my legs, biting me all over. I was so scared, but then he tossed the fire onto my legs. It didn't burn at all, but all of the ants died. Then he held out his hand to help me up. The entire time, all I could hear was loud drums and yelling. Elena rubs his back with her hand, rocking him slightly as he leans into her. When I took his hand, I woke up. Adrius, it was just a bad dream. Nothing to be afraid of. I know, but I'm still scared. I don't want you to go to Driz. After hearing this, Elena hugs him tightly. Oh, sweetie. Can't I come with you? He says with his face pressed into her body, his voice muffled by her robe. Adrius, it's as we said before. You must stay because an Ossian must always look after the throne. She pulls him away and rests her hands on his shoulders. Aren't you excited about that? I don't know. You'll be looking after the entire kingdom. You can sit on the throne and take care of everything. Sounds hard. Oh, believe me, it is. Your grandfather will be helping you, though. That will make things much easier. She pokes his nose while saying this, making him giggle softly. You're going to be a wonderful king one day. This will be a fun test for you. Like a learning experience? Exactly. They sit there for a moment longer before Adrius breaks his silence, wiping his eyes. Can you sing to me like you used to? Elena looks over at Raynar, who still lies on the bed. His soft snores a quiet ambience for their conversation. Quietly? Alright. But then you're going right back to bed, little prince. He eagerly nods and then rests on her. Elena intones a small tune to test her vocals before humming a song.
Is that the main menu song? Oh god. That singing brought me to tears. Adrius bounds down the corridor, his small hooves clopping against the smooth stone flooring. The prince skids to a stop at one of the windows and brings himself up with his arms to look over the balustrade. There, just over the horizon, he can see carts, wagons, and carriages slowly rolling over the hills of the northern run. He drops down from his lifted position and continues to bolt down the hallway, almost running into a servant carrying a box. Sorry! He twists around while running to apologize, the servant shaking their head in bemusement. As he runs, he keeps his focus on the carriages, watching as they draw closer. The beams and pillars on the balcony pass by in a blur as he continues his sprint. Then he stops. If it wasn't for his youthful agility, he would have surely fell over coming to a stop so suddenly. His eyes stay focused on the caravan and he walks up to the balustrade once more. This time he stands on the base, planting his hooves on the small slab of stone near the bottom. There's not as many wagons now. Some of them were carrying goods that needed to be traded, so of course this was inevitable. Still, Adrius knew those wagons should have come back, empty or not. Surely there should be more in the entourage. He knows there should be more. Then he notices the soldiers. It's hard to distinguish them from the squires and stable boys as both trudge alongside the carts. Some of them look dreadfully tired, while others ride in the carts, their heads down. Adrius can even see what looks to be injured men. Some laying on the floors of wagons, others being helped along by their fellow men, arms around each other's shoulders. Adrius starts to feel a lump forming in his throat, but the fear instead settles in his stomach. It churns and twists inside of him as his eyes dance over each cluster of men. Some of the carts they're being carried and look new, not made from the same wood as the ones from around Lyre. Ginny rounds the corner, slowly walking down the hall. Adrius bites his cheek when he sees the last wagon roll over the hillside, not followed by any others. Doing another scan, Adrius realizes that among all of these things, one thing stands out to him the most. Come along, my prince. Your mother and father have returned. Yes, it's a question that he wanted an answer to the moment he first looked out the window. A question that he's been asking himself since he first laid eyes upon the entourage. Where's the royal carriage? Adrius drops from the support, landing on his hands and knees. My prince? He ignores her, rising in a sprint, almost tripping over himself. His breath is fast and his legs are unsteady as he darts down the corridor. All Ginny would be able to hear is the fast clopping of hooves against smooth stone flooring. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Raynar stands outside of the door to Adrius's chambers. His gloved hand rests limply on the antler-shaped handle of the door. Adrius, please. You haven't left your room in days. He speaks through the crack in the center of the doors, his muzzle almost pressed against it. There's no response from the inside. The servants tell me you haven't been eating. Your mother wouldn't want this. Still no response.
It's time to drink water. It's time to drink water. It's time to drink water. It's time to drink water.
So you're going to do nothing? Adrius stands in the doorway to his father's room, and the king's expression turning into a frown. That is not what I said. And yet it's what will happen anyway. Adrius barges past him into the room, his father stepping back and letting him in, closing the door behind him with a thud. Oh, of course. You know, I'd rather you question me in front of the entire court than whatever this is. This? This is a private conversation where more can be said than what's spoken in front of the court. Or do you not like that? Raynar's nose twitches as he walks over to the wine by the cupboard. What are your issues? Ask Leaf. I'm sure he tells you everything. Raynar's shoulder slumps and he lets out a sigh. He finishes pouring 2 cups of red wine and turns to bring one to Adrius. Not those issues. Adrius, now sitting on the end of the bed, takes the cup and rests it in his lap, holding it with both hands. My issue lies with the fact that you refuse to take any action. Here we are in a time of peace, but it's not like that everywhere. You think I don't know this? Adrius, I'm doing everything in my power to solve the problems to our south. Driz has absolute control over the territory where the heart of the problem is. Until they can take action, my hands are tied. Adrius gestures with his hand toward the south. Laws be damned! The problem is bleeding into our lands and causing the suffering of our people. With each day that passes, they grow stronger. That barren wasteland keeps spilling them into our lands, and you want to sit there and say we're powerless? Raynar lets out a sigh and pinches the bridge of his nose. We need to fight back against this problem, with or without Drizz's permission. I know that the small steps I take in order to solve these problems go unappreciated, but it's the only route we can take. So you know the reason why, then? Adrius. Drizz has no concern for the problems of the canyons. It doesn't affect their citizens nearly as much as ours. King Aaron sits on his throne daily and does nothing to help. And yet we are forbidden from causing conflict beyond our own borders. King Aaron doesn't care! Raynar looks as if he's going to start lecturing Adrius, but he holds back. They sit there in silence for a moment, but Adrius doesn't let the silence hang in the air for long. Do you remember Mother's funeral? Raynar breathes in deeply and exhales, closing his eyes. Like it was yesterday. I remember everything all too vividly. It was about a week after her murder. All of the lords and ladies from all over Lyre traveled day and night to pay their respects and mourn. After that was a private burial. She wanted to be buried on the hill just outside of our garden, so that's what we did. What is the point of all of this? Every noble from Brayden's Vale to Grimrock came to pay respects to your wife. My mother. And yet not a single word was heard from King Aaron. He doesn't care. Mother's blood was spilt on his sands and we haven't heard from your supposed friend since. Enough. You give this issue so little attention that it's safe to assume you don't even care either. It's like you've given up quiet. You mourned her, but now you don't even like to talk about her. You're going to keep bottling this up eventually spill it on someone. You don't even speak of her around me, your son. You just hide in your castle while people meet the same fate as her. Oh, fuck. Hang on, I'm fixing my hair. Adrius' chest rises with each breath as he's now standing from his seat. Wine glass slammed on the end table. Raynar just stands there silently. His face has traces of anger which slowly fade away, almost going unnoticed by Adrius. Well? Still no response from Raynar, his head lowered. Adrius makes his way to the door and goes to turn the knob, angry tears forming at the corners of his eyes. Why did you kill me? Adrius stops turning the knob, a chill running up his spine, bristling the fur on the back of his neck. He turns around to stare at his father, eyes wide open with a confused expression plastered on his face. What? It was here, in this very room. You killed your own father. Father, what are you talking about? Is this some sort of cruel joke? Raynar doesn't answer, which causes Adrius to become even more confused. You've lost Lyre as well. This statement hits Adrius a little harder. I didn't lose him. You've paved the road ahead. You'll never be able to go back. Tears now stream down Adrius' face as Raynar stands there like a statue, spouting off these cryptic messages. Adrius, I loved you more than life itself. You don't even know what you're running from anymore. Ah! Adrius. This art is amazing. I just want to say that now. These CGs are amazing. They're beautiful. Adrius lunges forward in his bed, the deer's chest heaving as he chokes on his first deep breath. My father. What was I... Sitting up in bed, he pulls the sheets closer to him, gripping them in his fist. The nightmare he just had fades away as suddenly as it came, like water evaporating on a hot summer's day. His father was angry with him? No, disappointed. Arguing. Adrius sits there for a moment, his mind desperately grasping the air for the dream, but to no avail. Adrius tosses the covers from his body, the cold morning air rushing over his fur. Looking outside the window, he realizes that it's closer to noon than morning. He must have slept in. He brings his hand to his bare chest,
sliding his fingers across it until he finds the necklace hung around his neck. Rubbing the soft part of his fingers over the piece of gold, he can feel the shape of the antlers on its base. It was his mother's. After this, he brings his hands up to his head, firmly rubbing the area where his antler is missing. A small bit of bone still lingers, but hasn't had enough time to heal properly in order to start growing once more. He then rubs his muzzle, the scar still feeling fresh, but has healed for the most part. It's nice to not need the bandages anymore, as they were becoming a pain for him. Wait, what happened? Oh shit! Oh shit, he might have been. I don't know. Not only that, but as much as he wished he had both antlers, it's nice to have one less sharp, pointy object to accidentally ram through the headboard of the bed. Adrius turns to look at the bed he's sitting on. His father's bed. The king's chambers. The entire room had been given to him upon ascending the throne. Of course, only after they'd managed to fix the place up. Adrius' own room, however, is still being renovated, so this is the only place he can sleep for the time being. It's only natural that he does sleep there. That he does sleep here. He's the king, after all. His own room is merely a personal choice. Throwing his legs over the right side of the bed, his hooved feet touch the floor below and rest for a moment. A sharp head pain overcomes him, and he arches his back, leaning his head down between his legs. He takes a sharp breath in through his teeth while clenching them. As he's recovering, there's a knock at the door. Leaf?
It is my king.
Adrius looks down at himself, seeing that he's only in his undergarments. It's only Leaf, so no need to look presentable. Come in. Adrius hears the jingle of keys and then the sound of the door unlocking. Loud thud as the mechanisms fall into place. Leaf pushes the door open and then shuffles into the room. He then braces the other side and pushes it closed.
Good morning, your majesty. I take it there was no need to wear the bandages.
Stop a bit for the ad. Yeah, Adrius shuffles back onto the bed, covering his waist with part of the blanket. I assume so, considering I didn't bleed all over the linens.
That's very good to hear. Will you allow me to examine the,
He points up at the top of Adrius' head. Of course. Adrius leans his head down for the bird to take a closer look. Leaf takes a close look at the area where the antler was broken off, brushing aside the fur around the wound. He then gently pokes a small bit left behind.
Any pain?
A little bit.
How about if I do this?
Leaf presses down firmly on the top, which causes a small shock of pain, which then spreads around the area. Oh, yes! Adrius pulls away from the bird, slightly lifting his arms in defense.
My apologies, I just have one last thing I need to check.
Then go ahead and get it over with. Adrius lowers his head once more, and Leaf touches a small bit of horn one last time. This time he's gently pushing and tugging on the sides.
Do you feel any pressure?
No. Leaf pulls his hand away and falls silent, not saying a word. Is that everything?
Yes.
How was it? Leaf takes a moment to respond before weakly coughing into his arm.
It may take a bit more time to heal than we originally thought.
No growth formula?
No, that would not be advised. It's best to let it happen naturally. I've been in contact with the royal smith to have a temporary prosthetic made. Your new crown will also be finished soon. As you requested, it will resemble the crown of your great-grandfather.
Alright. Yes, very good. Adrius slides out of bed once more, standing up and walking over to the wardrobe in the corner. He pulls out the lowest drawer and lifts a pair of black trousers from it. So, where's Liz? I'd like to know if there's anything on the agenda today that I don't know about.
Fortunately, I can tell you that personally. About an hour after noon, there are several citizens who have made appointments to speak with you and your counselors about certain matters.
Adrius pulls the trousers up around his waist and buttons the top. He then reaches for a lilac shirt folded neatly in the middle compartment.
Other than that, it's a mostly uneventful day. However, I'm not just up here to check on your injuries.
Oh?
Liz was the one who sent me. She wishes to speak with you.
She can come and see me whenever she likes. Adrius finishes putting on the first layer of clothing, then begins buttoning his vest.
She was actually very insistent that you meet her in the court chambers.
Adrius freezes while buttoning the last button on his vest. Very well. Has Bjorn recovered yet?
No, I'm afraid he hasn't.
Be sure to let me know as soon as he wakes up.
Of course.
A few moments pass as Adrius progresses through the rest of the process of dressing himself.
Are you well?
Never better. Why?
You seem a bit stressed.
Adrius turns around, slowly looking down at the bird. I'm only tired, that's all.
Are you absolutely sure?
Of course. Leaf rocks back and forth on his feet before prying again.
I'm not just talking about your physical health. I wanted to know how you were doing after everything that's happened. Things haven't begun to slow down until recently, and ever since all of this chaos started, you seem...
I'm fine, Leaf! You can stop interrogating me now! Adrius makes his way to the door. I'll go see what Liz wants.
Do you really plan on killing Lyre?
Adrius whirls around, his cape twisting with his body. If it comes down to it, it's not something you should be worrying about. If the Heart's cavalry captures Lyre alive, he'll get a fair trial.
Like the trial Richter was given?
Adrius advances on Leaf, looking down at him with cold, dark eyes. Leaf? If I wanted your opinions on the current events... Leaf. If I wanted your opinions on the current events, I would have appointed you as my advisor. Not my physician! Leaf takes a step back, but then speaks, his voice quiet.
I know more about what's going on than you understand. I've been on your side constantly throughout this entire tragedy.
You know what? Adrius, I was willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. I was willing to play devil's advocate for you. I was willing to give you a fair shot. But your treatment of the little baby bird man, Leaf. You just need to get bitch smacked, man. Like, you just need to get bitch smacked onto the floor. You just need to get bitch smacked. Just little karate chop to the neck. Won't kill him, but it will hurt like hell. Adrius disregards him, turning around to leave, but Leaf continues.
And it wasn't you who appointed me as a royal physician. It was your father.
No, not punched. Bitch smacked. Like, backhand with brass knuckles.
Need I remind you why?
The deer stops at the door and stands there for a moment. After a few seconds pass, he sighs and turns around. I'm not in need of a reminder. I do truly value you and your wisdom, Leaf. I just don't get under my fur about this situation again. Leaf tilts his head to the side in a ponderous manner, as if showing agreement.
Very well.
Now, let's go see what Liz wants. Is she doing any better? Adrius opens the door and holds it open for the small bird as he tentatively walks through.
Thank you, and no, not really.
Ah! Leaf scuttles ahead of Adrius to the chamber door and pulls it open, holding it for him. Adrius strides through as he enters, his eyes adjust to the dim candlelit room. Oh shit. Candles are lit throughout the room and letters and books clutter the table. On the other side of the room at the end of the table, Liz stands over an old large book among several other pieces of parchment and scrolls. She looks tired, her hair tied back messily and her eyes bloodshot. Oh shit, I might actually be twinning with Liz. Wait, no, my bun's tight. My man bun's tight. She's also visibly drunk. Almost. I need to find a stopping point, like a proper stopping point before we stop. In front of her on the table sits a chalice full of wine, along with a couple of empty bottles. She stands up from her chair, a scowl upon her face as Adrius enters the room. Dear God, have you even slept? Leaf quietly follows behind him, closing the door and standing by it. Letters. She picks up a scroll and throws it across the table. Adrius leans over and catches it before it lands on the table. From who? Driz. Adrius's fingers tense around the paper as he unrolls it carefully. Holding it up to a candle, he reads it to himself. My sons and I offer our sincere condolences for the murder of your father. King Raynar will hold a special place in all of our hearts. We pray for the prosperity of your kingdom and wish you good health. Aaron Starfall. I can already see you're mad. Reasonably so. King Aaron only wants to touch on the subject of a death in the family as a form of risk management. You also got to keep in mind, Soul Creek is getting updated tomorrow. Adrius crumples up the letter and throws it to the side. So, serious question, do we want to finish the Lyre update tonight and then do Soul Creek tomorrow, or do we want to split it up into two but do Soul Creek on a later date? So are we doing it all tonight? Yeah, let's do it all tonight. Adrius crumples up the letter and throws it to the side. That's important, Adrius. Relax, it's not even his handwriting. I've helped Father answer and send letters for the last 3 years. After the accident, his hands never quite recovered. Liz slumps back into her chair, pinching the bridge of her nose. Leaf goes over to her side, placing his ring on her hand. Anything else of importance? Liz sits up in her chair slightly, reaching for a letter on the table. You know me, I save the best for last. A letter from the Judge of Holmes End. She clears her throat and reads out what's written down on the piece of parchment. We have had numerous attacks from the northern sides of the canyons. Several villages and settlements south of Holmes End have been bombarded with raids. Halfton is a ruin. I urge you to make contact with the King of Driz in order to formulate a solution. She rolls up the letter and tosses it back onto the table, taking a sip from her chalice. Adrius leans on the table, anger burning deep inside of him. With each word she spoke, his rage festered. Call upon the royal army! Have them march on the canyons and kill every single bandit, criminal, and barbarian. Adrius. Come Winter's End, I want that entire nest wiped out. Man, woman, and child. I won't rest until that stain is wiped from the map. Oh yeah, no, he needs bitch smacked. He needs bitch smacked. No, he needs more than bitch smacked. He needs to just... Liz, can you please do us a favor? Can you do us a favor? Can you take that, I assume, badge that is on your chest, take it, put it in a fist, like on your fist, on your knuckles, and uppercut Adrius. We can't do that. Without Driz's cooperation, we can't march on their lands. Your father knew this, and I'm completely certain you know it. I don't care if you don't agree with it. You know this is the right choice. You can't hit the king? Oh no, Liz will be fine. 'Cause she's a bad bitch. Actually, I'm gonna add her to the list of people who might be able to turn me straight. Leaf picks up the letter and reads it over, clearly nervous about what's happening. Crossing their border will do more damage than what's already been done. No, they have lost complete control over that part of their territory. No matter how many troops they send in to clear out the main road, the heart of the problem will always continue to grow. They focus so much of their manpower towards building and cultivating the size of their kingdom, they let others drown in the problems they breed while continuing to rise above those beneath them. Driz uses faith as a tool of deception and a beacon for those around them, yet they're fully content with letting everyone be consumed by the blood-stained sands. Listen to me! She slaps her hand on the table in exasperation. It won't work out the way you want it to. Leaf clears his throat.
She's right, Your Majesty. Going about these problems in a careful manner is the best solution. We cannot afford to cause one predicament while trying to solve another.
Liz sighs and looks back up at Adrius from across the table. This is the first time Adrius has seen her lose her temper in a while. Adrius, you have to stop making these rash decisions. I feel as if I'm the only one who's making any decisions. Driz will that evil gestate within the very blood-stained sands of their kingdom, rather than commit to anything. For once, please trust that I have this kingdom's best interests at heart. I admire your resolve, but we need time to figure things out. Fine. Adrius shouts this at her and she jumps slightly, Leaf more so. He sits down in the chair behind him and steadies his breathing. A headache begins to develop, but he rubs the sides of his head with his fingers, keeping it at bay for the time being. How soon can we send soldiers to take control of the area? I want the villages closest to the canyons to be well guarded in case of any future attacks. It would take days to even deliver the order to our garrison south of Flinthaven. Oh, hiya. And not only that, but from there, the journey south would take a week at least, given the supplies needed to set up camp. Have them garrison in the towns then. I don't care how it's done, just make sure Holmes End has decent protection against these southern invaders. I'll have the order drawn up immediately. Liz rises from her chair with the help of Leaf and leaves for the door. Leaf, be a dear and have a cartographer brought to my room. No, he didn't get what he deserved.
Certainly.
Adrius holds up his hand and she stops before rounding the table. I did not dismiss you. She rests her hands on the table, glowering at him. Let it be known that I've always had this kingdom's best interests at heart. I'm sure you do. But did it ever occur to you that you don't know everything?
Elizabeth!
No, Leaf. Let her continue. In the privacy of these chambers, I won't shrink from criticism. As a figurehead, I can't be questioned. But as a king... Adrius sits up in his chair, resting his hand underneath his chin. Go on, Liz. I want you to be honest with me.
Your Majesty, she's intoxicated. She doesn't mean...
I'm fine, Leaf! She mutters this in his direction while gritting her teeth, and he steps back. We have received no word from Aaron on the subject of Lord Richter. None. If we had kept him as a hostage, then we might have been on a better track towards clarity, but here we stand. No Arinian Lord, no answers. She takes in a deep breath and exhales, a hysterical expression appearing on her face. Not only have we lost Lord Richter, but Lyre has run off with him, only God knows where. Lyre Reed. I understand your constant ill treatment of him would lead you to forget this, but he is the only son of Lord Marcus Reed. They're a small house now, but still one of the oldest and most powerful aside from your own. And I've just had to send his Lord Father a letter telling him that his son has committed murder, treason, and has run away with the man known for killing the king. And this is somehow my fault? In small part, yes. Sending Richter to his death like that was never going to work out. It was a dramatic display at best, and now we have to deal with it. I needed to use him as an example. Letting him escape was never my intention. Old traditions be damned, his execution was a game for you. Toying with a man's life like that. I voted him innocent for a reason. And why did you vote him innocent? What? I've been wondering for days. Adrius leans back in his chair, a scowl growing on his face. Liz gives him no answer and he sighs. I'll ask again some other time. Is that everything? For now. I will think about what you've said. However, I know your mission in Driz was somewhat successful, but it's clear that our situation with Driz has become far worse. I will be taking action if things proceed down this path. Silence falls over the room aside from the sound of Leaf nervously shuffling in the corner of the room. Go and rest, Liz. We will speak more on this later. Liz takes a book off of the table along with a few scrolls and briskly walks to the door. She rests her free hand on the door handle and turns to Adrius. Adrius, what? I'm on your side, whether you believe it or not. And I truly do care for you. He shuffles in his seat and turns, looking at her. I know. That's what I like about you. Your unwavering allegiance. Rest well. She opens the door and steps through the doorway. Sound of her shoes tapping against the floor as she walks off. The door closes by itself with a soft thud echoing throughout the room. Leaf.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Adrius rubs the spot where his antler should be. I feel a headache coming on. Cancel the appointments I have later.
Of course, Your Majesty. Would you like some medicine for the pain?
Very much, yes. Adrius rises from his seat and picks up the crumpled letter from Driz. After standing, the pain becomes more apparent. He slowly makes his way to the door, which Leaf graciously opens for him. Once he steps through the doorway, an odd feeling washes over him. It's feeling similar to how one would feel after waking up from drinking too much the night before. Waking up to an unfamiliar surrounding, or somewhere you shouldn't be. Where did... He turns to Leaf, who has a puzzled gaze behind his mask. I'll be in my room if needed. I want to throw hands! Richter. Oh, hi! I'm thankful, truly I am, but... This wasn't supposed to happen. Why would you do this? You didn't have to. I could've... I did it for you, Al. Because I love you. I suppose even a god would find it hard to love and be wise all at once. Richter. You're safe, for now. You must go to the Temple of Hyetta. It is south of the Drizzian Canyons. Here, you will complete your training. We will speak again soon. Take care. I just want to make sure, do I have to censor it all? And also, more large-cheeked Lyle. Large cheek Lyle. Rolling over, my eyes struggle to stay open, but my mind is wide awake. When all my body wants to do is go back to sleep, my surroundings become apparent and my curiosity takes over. You know, let me make sure that adult content is off. Yup, adult content is hidden. The smell of burning wood wafts over my face, along with the cool winter breeze. My body feels warm, but the bedroll I'm enveloped in is cool to the touch. Oh! Oh! I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the sensor, because... You know, better safe than sorry. Better safe than sorry. The fur my head lays against is warm, however. I sit up enough so that my vision does not only consist of the cliffside I am under and look around. All around me are trees covered in a thin layer of snow. Despite the frost shrouding everything, flowers bloom and nature thrives. Oh, it's not for a while? Okay. There's a small campfire next to the bedroll I'm in, with a pot of water hanging above it, softly boiling. Where am I? And where's Lyle? Slowly sitting up, my mind is still able to hold on to the visions that have run through my mind for who knows how long. Recalling them is not as easy, but the knowledge of what I've seen is still there. Tigrin. I go into the mind's eye and look around. It feels empty here, even considering the absence of Tigrin. Tigrin! I shout into the chasm, but get no reply. They said we would speak again soon, but I assume I won't be seeing them for a while. The Temple of Hyetta. I've never even heard of such a place. They better come back soon, because I don't even know where to start with this. Not only that, but where the hell was I? I come back to the small camp where I'm laying down. Sitting up, I toss the upper corner of the bedroll to the side and look around, trying to gain a better understanding of my surroundings. A horse who feels familiar stands close by, hitched onto a tree with a fur blanket draped over them. After remembering where I am and what's happened, I realize that this is the horse Lyle was riding. There's a water skin laying at my feet and I reach for it, popping the cork. I stick my finger inside and tip the skin to the side. I bring the tip of my finger to my mouth and taste it. It's definitely water, and it's cold, too. I put the opening to my mouth and begin to guzzle down the contents. It's like drinking the water from a melted glacier, more fresh than anything I've ever had over the past month. I pull the skin away from my mouth, gasping for breath, the crisp air tickling the inside of my mouth. Looking around while I quench my thirst, I notice a specific thing along the camp supplies strewn about. There's a clothing line stretched from the top of the small cliff all the way down to the same tree the horse is hitched to. A pair of trousers and a white shirt hang from this line, along with a towel and even a pair of undergarments. These clothes are definitely Lyle's. I've seen him in that shirt on multiple occasions. In between the clothing, there's a lantern with a blue flame dancing on its candle. Vitality fire. I assume it's there to keep the drying clothes from freezing stiff, but as I look around, I notice that there's no frost on any of the grass around it. It's like I'm nestled in a small circle of the forest that's unaffected by the frigid weather around it. I look to my left and see a small cloth with small red berries nestled in it, along with a large green apple. I'm not terribly hungry at the moment, but I sense that will change soon. I decide to take a few berries, examining them first. They're wintergreen berries. Kind I used to eat as a kid. I pop a few in my mouth and the flavor is stiff at first. After chewing for a moment, the taste becomes a bit stronger and my tongue relaxes into it. Out of the corner of my eye, I spot a book left open at the base of my bedroll. I'm about to reach for it, but I hear a noise in the distance. The noise of rustling bushes echoes through the fog, along with the sound of twigs snapping. Alrighty. I'm pulling it up. I think that's Lyle. It could be a small animal, but as the sound draws near, I'm convinced that it's much larger than a squirrel or hare. Out of the fog, I see a pair of tall, pointy ears peek out from behind a large bush. The wolf steps over the snowy shrubbery, a bow slung over his shoulder with a pail of water in one hand and an expired turkey in the other. Our eyes meet and the world freezes. Oh, we're safe. Yay! Richter. Sorry. I need to do the voice. Richter, you're awake! He sets the pail and turkey on the ground and rushes over to me. Before I can say anything, I'm pulled into a tight hug as he carefully kneels down at my side. Ow. Oh, sorry. He pulls away from the hug and rests his large paws on my shoulders. Are you okay? How long have you been awake? Do you need some water? One question at a time, please. He lunges at me again and starts to plant kisses all over my face. I'm pushed back onto the bedroll and pinned down by his weight. His cape blankets over us as he continues to smother me in affection. He ends it with a deep kiss on the lips, pulling away and rolling over onto the ground next to me. His armor makes it a bit hard for him to move around, but he eventually situates himself. I struggle to roll over and look at him. My body's still somewhat sore. Still, even with that, I feel completely rejuvenated after what just happened. I've been waiting for you to wake up for what feels like ages. It's been a week since we escaped. He pants, clearly out of breath. Puffs of hot air form in clouds around his muzzle. I remember everything now. Thought I was done for, but there you were. Swooping in to save me at the last second. How did you do it? I took the place of the headsman. And how the hell did you pull that off? He sits up, leaning against one of the rocks behind us. I snuck into the stables and found the headsman. Once there, I thought I was done for, but he actually ended up helping me. Really? Yes, he gave me his great axe and retrieved my horse for me. I'm sure he's okay because he can't really be punished for being robbed. He must have been very fond of you. Lyle chuckles to himself, that soft laugh almost as warm as the fire. It's also confusing, though. Why would the headsman help Lyle save me from execution? I was under the assumption that the headsman would carry out his orders no matter what. Why would he help you save me? It's funny, really. He said he had received a vision. A vision? He's a very holy man, and as I'm sure you know. Yes, I'm aware. This vision told him that if I came down to the stables on the day of your execution, he was to help me. God must really love you. Yeah, that's what Tigran did. They somehow managed to twist the events into playing out in our favor. They're not supposed to do that, though. I guess so. What's happened to Tigran? The headsman said that you were of great importance. What does this mean? I didn't want to question it, though. I saw the chance and took it. I didn't really have another choice. Tigran saved me. What did it cost them? Clearly it was something big. What if our connection got worse? A flurry of thoughts and worries run through my mind, the chilling breeze not making things any better. Richter? Yeah! I said, do you know what the headsman was on about? Oh. I tried to formulate a careful reply, but I feel stuck. I want to tell him what it truly means. I want to open up and come forward about all of it. See, no. See what I mean? Right behind that small blade on his side, you can see his fat ass. He has a fat ass. You can see right there. Fat ass. But a whole whole fucking bakery back there. Cake! I want to open up and come forward about all of it. Tigrin clearly trusts him enough to center my entire escape around him, but I can't. I'm not sure. At least not right now. I'll tell him later tonight. I can't keep it from him forever. Especially him. Well, I certainly owe him one. I don't think we'll get the chance to make good on that, though. After I rescued you, I got us out of there as fast as I could. We took the main road for a while, but then I changed our course further north. It took a day's ride, but we're far away from the capital city now. It even managed to snow on the way here, so there's no chance of hoof prints being left behind. And where is here? We're just half a day's ride north from Hailing Cove, in the woods at the base of the mountain. It's not the middle of nowhere, but we should be safe here for a while. I even went to one of the markets in Hailing Cove to pick up some supplies. Wasn't that risky? I'm pretty sure we're wanted all over. News about our crimes hadn't made it to Hailing Cove yet. Also, I made sure to hide my identity, and I didn't stay long. I would hope not. I'd hate to be left here alone for too long, even if I was out for it. Don't worry. You're safe here. I wasn't gone long and made sure everything was secure before I left. Besides, the huntsmen make sure there aren't many predators in these forests. Calm down, I was only joking. I'd rather be left here than go into the town and face getting recognized. I'm sure your wanted poster is very handsome. It better be. When I was there, I picked up plenty of things that will help us. With what? What do you think? Being out here in the wilderness. We can't just rent a room at a tavern. Fair. I had plenty of gold set aside and managed to snatch it before I escaped. We've got plenty of food and supplies to start us out. That's very good to hear. The idea that we won't be starving certainly makes me feel better. Not only that, but my face feels fresh and my hair feels much cleaner than it was in the dungeons. Were you washing my hair? Yeah. He stands up, throwing his cape back. Don't want you to wake up feeling like you were still in a dungeon. I truly don't deserve him. As a friend and a lover. Watching him get up, I managed to get a good look at his armor. It's a studded leather with chainmail, woven imagery adorning the leather padding. On his gauntlet and pauldron, the family crest of the Reeds is painted. New armor? Old, actually. My other set of armor was more ceremonial. I wouldn't be caught dead wearing it on the battlefield. It looks nice on you. I love the chaps. Thank you. I do too. Much more comfortable than that full-body gambeson. And that must be your horse over there. That's him. The horse calmly rests by the tree he's hitched to. His black coat shines like coal, contrasted against the snowfall. He has a long, curly white mane which rests on his thick neck and down his back in thick ringlets. Above all of that, he's huge. He's beautiful. One of the prettiest horses I've ever seen. His name's Finley. Oh, don't worry, I still simp. I still simp for Drayden. And Amethyst, quite frankly, if I'm going to be delusional, at least let me be delusional and happy. He was given to me when I was knighted. Raynar knew I would need a horse big enough to carry all of this. He gestured to himself, closing his eyes with a humble expression. Well, he's as big as I remember him being when you galloped all over the fields outside of... Yeah, I'm just going to keep pretending that Drayden is mine. Well, he's as big as I remember him being when you galloped over the fields outside of... My mind goes back to that day, and I'm almost able to see it a bit more clearly. All of the bad memories seem to overpower the stunning visual of Lyre riding over the hills. The worst memories. Are you okay? No. The dry wounds on my back feel more noticeable, and I readjust my shirt. You know what? I'm going to nip this in the bud. Amethyst, you are aware what you're saying, right? You are aware what you're saying, right? I would be very careful what you say. I would be extremely careful what you say. All I'm going to say is, I am a petty bitch, and I am my mother's child. I am petty. Oh, no worry, Axel, I'm just going to nip this in the bud. If you're saying that my fantasy is fake, then yours is also fake. Because of one simple fact. He is a fictional character. Now, if you would like to rescind your statement, I will happily rescind mine. If you don't want to, then I'll keep repeating it. Now, back to the story. The dry wounds on my back feel more noticeable and I readjust my shirt. What happened after the trial? What did he do to you? The question causes me to wince. It's a question I was hoping to avoid, but he seems to have figured out something's happened. That much is true. Honestly, same. I think you know. He looks hurt, like he was just punched in the gut. But then requests again with a bit of impatience. My mind is coming to many conclusions, but no. I don't know. I want to know. I was tortured. How? He takes no time to register this information, as if he already knew what I was going to say. My voice catches in my throat, but it feels more like I'm about to throw up. Thinking back on it, the muscles in my body begin to tense. I can imagine every bone in my body aching like they did those many days ago. Please don't make me talk about it. Richter. I won't force you to talk about it, but I need to know what happened. Please, if you could just... The desperation in his voice bleeds out more and more with each word. I need to know, because I'd never forgive myself if I wasn't able to give you support. He approached me slightly, but I back away from him. This causes him to take a step back, his feet crunching the stiff grass. Please. I just want to... Can I just show you? He bites his lip at hearing this, eyes darting all over me. Show me? I pull my legs out from the bedroll and sit on top of it. The leathery surface is stiff and cold on the outside, but it feels almost refreshing. I was secretly hoping you just already knew. One less problem to bring up. I shift around on my knees and face away from him, reaching down to slowly pull up my shirt from the bottom and over my head. My hair falls down around my shoulders, spilling down onto my upper back and brushing against the scars. I don't have a reason for it, but I'm overwhelmed with embarrassment, my face becoming hot. At first, I hear nothing from Lyre, with him having somewhat of a delayed reaction. He lets out a choking gasp, like he's at a loss for words. Tears being welling up in the corner of my eyes, so heavy that when I blink they fall straight down rather than steaming down my cheeks. I hear him fumble forward, drawing in a sharp breath before belting out a stream of sobs. No! Why did... Every word that falls from his mouth in some form of gibberish. He then throws a string of swears. Some sound like they're in a different language. It's a thick and heavy language, one I've only ever heard from travelers who get too drunk at the local tavern. It's not as bad as it looks. I can barely feel it anymore. He continues to sob, now taking his large paws and gently examining the area. How could he? It's like Leaf said. Every word uttered comes out in a shaky voice. Human wounds heal pretty fast. The tears aren't flowing any faster, but the muscles in my face begin to tense and I start to grit my teeth. The pads on his gentle fingers brush over the branding scar, sending a shiver throughout my whole body. What else did he do to you? The voice I hear almost doesn't sound like Lyle at all. It gave me a hallucinogen. He pulls his hand away and I turn around, bringing my arms together and holding them tight against my body. Lyle's standing, pacing around the area, running his paws all over his head. his ears being pushed back each time. He starts breathing rapidly, each breath drawn into his body makes him well inflate with rage. I swear I wouldn't let him hurt you. He's going to pay. He's going to pay for this! Fuck! He throws his paws down around his waist, and then quickly brings them back up, wringing them out in the air. I've never seen him so furious. The whites of his eyes turn to a dark yellow. If I blinked, I most likely would have missed it happening. I swear I'll fucking kill him! I'll... Ah, god... Damn headphones. Lyre falls to his knees in front of me, his armor clattering as he does. His face is tensing up, the muscles in his nose pulling his chops back, his eyes twitching. I watch him in a dazed state, the tears no longer rushing down my cheeks. Eyes wide, mouth dry, all I can do is sit there and watch him crumble to the ground. At that moment, he looked as if he'd already killed Adrius. I shifted my seated position and moved forward, falling into him. I wrap my arms around him, press my body into his. The cold steel parts of his armor shocks me for a moment, but I don't pull away. After hugging for a bit, he begins to calm down as his breathing steadies. He gently wraps his arms around me and buries his nose into my hair. We just sit there for a moment, rocking side to side ever so slightly. He manages to smell as he always did. Sweet coconut, like the warm winds on the beaches of Erin. I'm so sorry. I adjust my arm and pat him on the back. His cape is rough and sturdy, made of a thick fabric which is much different from the old one. Don't be. After a couple of minutes of silence, Lyre mumbles into my ear. Can I bandage you? This wound looks pretty healed, but I want to make sure they're protected. Sure. Lyre sits up and takes a deep breath. He then crawls over to a large rucksack and rifles through it. I wish I knew you had those scars. You're so weak when I took you off my horse. I was afraid if I touched you too much, you... He pulls out a cloth and a roll of bandages. Turn around, please. I do as he says, sitting cross-legged on the bedroll. I take a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. I just feel so broken. I'm not able to process my emotions properly right now. Lyre dips the rag into the pale water dripping off onto the ground as he brings it over. Tell me if it hurts and I'll stop. I'll be fine. He presses the rag onto my back, gently dabbing it onto the scars. You can go a bit harder if you need to. No, I can't. There's some scabbing and I don't want to mess with it too much. I'm just going to clean the surface. He continues to lightly massage my back with the rag, working his way down. Once he finishes, he uses the dry part of it to dry the area. I'm honestly amazed at how fast these have healed. I knew humans had this unique ability, but I didn't realize it was so strong. He begins to unravel some of the bandages and starts wrapping them around my lower torso. It's not really something I notice. It's always been this way. His strong paws weave around my body, swathing me in the stretched cloth. Each time he touches me, the sensation manages to stay for a moment. This should keep everything nice and safe. Before he finishes, he rubs his thumb near the area where the branding scar is. Damn you, Adrius! He ties off the bandages and claps his paws together, brushing the palms. All set. I turn around and pick up my shirt, sliding it back on and pulling the hair out from inside the collar. Thank you. It's no problem at all. Actually, would you mind helping me with something? Not at all. Could you help me out of this armor? You know what? I'm just gonna take my hair down and leave it down for the rest of the stream. I need to start preparing the turkey. He nods his head in the direction of the dead bird, the feathers of the bird's fan blowing in the gentle breeze. I wasn't stressed about it. I'm pretty sure he's wearing underwear, but... Okay. I thought we were over that, Amethyst.
It's time to drink water.
I genuinely thought we were over that.
It's time to drink water. It's time to
Okay, you
drink
haven't
water.
claimed.
It's time to drink water.
Okay. Congrats. Congrats. He nods his head in the direction of the dead bird, the feathers of the bird's fan blowing in the gentle breeze. Sure. Can you not get it off on your own? He begins to unlatch the leather straps on his breastplate. Oh, believe me, I can. It just takes forever. Walking over to one of the rocks, he sits down on it and continues undressing. I stand up successfully and walk over to him as he fiddles with the straps of his gauntlet. My legs feel a bit unsteady, but I manage just fine. Here. I take his arm and pull the straps away, sliding the gauntlet off of his paw. Thank you. That's always the hardest part. Once the gauntlet's off, I remove his pauldron and the chainmail padding on his other shoulder. Those are a bit more tricky, but once off, he rolls his shoulders and sighs. Why do you put all this on anyway? Just to go and hunt a turkey? You forget we're wanted criminals. I unlatch his cape from the leather clasps and bundle it up, setting it down on the rock next to us. I don't want to be caught unarmed and unarmored. Right. Now onto the breastplate. He's already undone a few of the buckles, so I just undo the back. Some of the parts on the back weren't even latched. There's no way Lyre would be able to reach back there, so I don't bring it up. Alright, now I'm freaking out. I take each component away one at a time and set them neatly off to the side. By the end of it, Lyle's left in just a pair of trousers. I fold up a colorful red tartan and placed it neatly on top of the cape. Lyle throws on a shirt from the rucksack, pulling it over his head and pushing his neck fur out through the neck hole. Okay, first off, Amethyst.
If I were in Lyle's situation,
I already
would have
claimed
taken his sword and
Merwin.
slit
I already
the Brother
claimed
throat
him,
with it.
so,
then I would pour gasoline, light a
shut up
match,
about
then
that.
light his body on fire, and chant, "Burn, bitch, burn! Burn in hell, you piece shit! Burn, burn,
So,
burn!
yeah.
Never stop
And you can
burning."
have Dean. Lyle throws on a shirt from his rucksack, pulling it over his head and pushing his neck fur out through the neck hole. It falls down around his shoulders, chest, and back in large tufts. That feels much better. Thank you. I nod my head, and before I can think of what to do next, he dives into one of the drawstring bags. Okay. I've got Roswell, June, fucking Merwin, and Axel from Remember the Flowers. I claimed Axel when I fucking proposed to him. I nod my head and think, and before I can think of what to do next, he dives into one of the drawstring bags. Do you want to feed Finley? Oh, sure. Yeah, I meant Aaron. Like, Aaron Cosmos from Remember the Flowers. I just went with his code name, Axel. Oh, sure. I've got some carrots here for him. He carried the both of us for a whole day, so I think it's time the two of you are properly acquainted. He tosses me a carrot and I barely catch it, fumbling it in my hands. Just go on up to him and hold it near his mouth. Well, I already proposed to him, so... nah, he won't bite. Okay, we'll have fun, fighting off a bunch of people who also claimed Amicus. So, yeah. Lyle picks up the turkey and brings it over to a large rock further away from the camp, a large knife in hand. He lays a leather tarp on the rock and begins plucking the feathers away from the body. It's at this point I realized I'd rather not watch. I take a few slow steps towards Finley, but he barely acknowledges my presence. Once I got close enough to touch him, I reach out and run my hand along his dark coat of fur. His ears turn back, a sign that he's noticed me, and I gently continue to brush him with my hand. I walk up to where his head is and hold out the carrot. He doesn't seem interested in it. I place my hand on his nose and rub in steady motions. Suddenly, he lifts his head and nips at my fingers. I pull away and call out in the direction of Lyle, my eyes still trained on Finley. He tried to bite me! I think. Don't worry, he's just nervous. He needs a little reassurance. He won't actually bite you. I take his word to heart and hold out my hand again, this time petting up near the bridge of the nose. Finley closes his eyes and snorts, which makes me laugh. He seems to be leaning into my hand at this point. I hold out the carrot again and Finley takes it in his mouth. With each bite, I help push it into his mouth. He chews it up and soon it's gone. He's very pleasant. I'm glad you're getting along with him. He tends to like everyone. I can now hear Lyre chopping the turkey up into different sections. I can also smell it. Fresh meat. Poor guy was under strict guard in the stables. I'm certain he grew to detest whoever had to guard him. I'm hoping he bit them at least. I'd pay to see Adrius get bit by him. Yeah. I look back at Finley, his eyes black like ink and shining bright. He's such a gentle creature. Tigran helped make him. They also created that turkey. And Lyre. It's funny. Someone like the headsman is a horseman, and Finley is a horse. Even though the similarities are there, I rarely ever notice them. It's just natural to me, I suppose. There's plenty of differences, but the likeness raises plenty of questions. I'll have to ask Tigran sometime. I'll have to tell Lyre about Tigran as well. Perhaps while we eat. Lyre tosses some of the turkey's bits into a worn-out bag and then places the meat and other parts that need to be cooked onto a small board. After he sets the board by the campfire, he takes a small tarp with the rest of the meat and ties it up like a bag. At night, I'll hang this in one of the trees so nothing can get to it. Good idea. He takes a pail of water near the fire and begins to wash the pieces of meat off one by one. After all of them are cleaned off, he places them into the pot of boiling water. After a long time of waiting with a rumbling stomach, the food's just about ready. It's already dark out, and as I look around, I notice that all of the flowers have begun to glow a soft pink color. It's so beautiful. It takes my mind off of the food. Wow. Yeah. I picked a pretty great spot, huh? I tried to stifle my chuckle, but it's no use as I watch the grin spread across his face. It's enchanting. He continues to stir the pot and he picks one of the flowers, gently pinching it between his claws. The glow still remains. Most of the flora in this region can do this. Helps keep them warm during the winter. It's incredible. You should see the golden timber this time of year. The leaves on the trees glow a bright sunshine yellow, casting a soft light over the entire forest. I've never seen something like this before. He takes a pot from off the prop sticks and pours the contents into 2 wooden bowls. I can smell the broth all the way from where I sit. It has a savory smell which makes my stomach impatient. I'm sure the flowers of your kingdom are just as exceptional. Not really. He laughed at that and he stands, bringing me a bowl of stew. Large chunks of boiled turkey float in the center, surrounded by chopped carrots and topped with enough spices to make my mouth water. Along with this, he pulls a large pink fruit out from behind his back. A dragon apricot. Enjoy your meal, my lord. He says this with a certain cadence to his voice. Sounds a bit like Gerhard. I don't like it. Thank you, my knight. He sits down across from me, his fur shining in the light of the fire. I tip the bowl up to my mouth, and the second my tongue touches the broth, I'm in heaven. God! This is amazing! It's okay. I could have... Shut up! This is the first real food I've had in what feels like forever! I'd forgotten that what meat that wasn't meat for pigs tasted like! You do not get to sit there and say this dish is mediocre. Wait, no. You do not get to sit there and say this dish is mediocre. He crosses his arms and smirks, shaking his head. Never thought I'd make a better chef than a swordsman. You can be good at more than one thing. You clearly know your way around both the sword and a paintbrush. Fair. He pours a bit of water into the empty pot and rolls it around the inside before tossing the slurry into the bushes. I continue eating, tipping the entire bowl up and practically pouring it into my mouth. Then I take a bite of the fruit, the juice practically pouring into my mouth. It's as sweet as I remember it being. It's almost funny. He's the wolf and he's eating so slow and in such a polite manner, compared to me sitting here scarfing down my food like a ravenous animal. I have to wonder if his species of wolf are also as courteous while eating, specifically the feral ones. Fucking right. Once I finish what's in my bowl, I'm reminded of what I wanted to tell Lyle over supper. I set the bowl down and clasp my hands together. Lyle? He looks up, some stew coating his upper lip. He quickly licks it away. Yes, Richter? I need to tell you something, but you have to promise me you won't freak out. What happened? It's nothing bad. Just hear me out, okay? He crosses his arms and sets his bowl down. Okay. Confessing it feels like jumping off a cliff into the ocean. Once I take that initial leap, the words just come spilling from my mouth. And so I tell him everything. I start with the fact that I'm the mortal avatar of Tigran. I tell him about Tigran reaching out to me in the mind's eye after Raynar's murder. The dreams I would have. The headaches. The recognitive visions. I tell him about how the entire time I was in the dungeon, I had to push myself to my very limits. I even tell him about a few visions I've been able to glean from the mind's eye. He's silent throughout my entire explanation, but I can tell he's listening. When I finish, he leans back in his seat, hands behind his head. So, Leaf was onto something that day. So you believe me? He sighs and gestures north with his thumb. When you were in the dungeons, Leaf summoned me to his study. He went on and on about stuff like this. He was saying you had the power of God behind you and other things along those lines. Said it was possible you were one of the great emissaries or something. I questioned it at first, thinking he was just on another one of his grand breakthroughs. That night I got to thinking and realized everything was adding up. That dream you had where you were Raynar, it just seemed a bit too coincidental. He leans forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Not only that, but if you managed to convince Leaf, who's typically a man of reason, then maybe it was true. I don't know. All I knew is that something was going on. I can prove it to you. He raises an eyebrow at that. How? It was a few days before you would leave for Driz. You were about 13 years old. You and Adrius were in the gardens and you promised him that the journey to Driz would be fine. When the Queen came to tell you the news you had been waiting for, you were so excited. To be able to train under your hero, it was a dream come true. You were well on your way to becoming a knight. Lyle looks a bit shocked but composes himself. That was certainly creepy. The past few months of mental torture have chipped away at my disposition, so I apologize if that was a little uncalled for. Lyle shrugs. I'll get used to it. But yeah, I suppose I believe you. Good, because I don't think I could deal with you not believing me while also being bombarded by all of this. Makes you feel any better, you're the only one I've told. Oh, trust me, I'm not mad at all. I'm mainly concerned. About what? About you. It must have been terrifying for you to go through all of that. I sat down on the grass using the rock I was previously sitting on as a prop for my back. Believe me, it was. Some of the scariest moments of my life have happened in those visions. But it's something I've come to appreciate in the end. Who knows where I'd be without this blessing? Lyle stands up, picking our bowls up off the ground and pouring some of the water from the pail into them to wash them out. He kept me going, among other things. I say this while gesturing to him, which he smiles about with a slight nod. So you can just have these visions whenever? Most of the time. Right now, I feel like if I tried to see anything, I'd throw up. Also, if the event was more recent, it's harder to see. Like through blurry glass or a distorted reflection. He sits down in front of the fire, staring into it with focused eyes. Is that why you were so sure Adrius murdered Raynar? At the end of the trial, I nod and he bites his lip nervously. And you can feel these visions? As if you're actually there? In every way. He winces at this. God. So you experienced death. In a way. I also saw the whole thing from Adrius' point of view. It was horrific feeling what it was to kill someone. What it was like to kill someone. I hated every second of it. Yeah. So. Oh, and one other thing. Tigran gave me an order to travel to Driz. Why would you need to go to Driz? I need to go to the Temple of Hyetta. They said it's south of the Drizian Canyons. So I'm supposed to finish my training. Lyle stares into the fire and then looks up at me. His eyes like black mirrors. Is this what you want? Do you really want to be this emissary? The words came out with a bit of trepidation. Do you even have a choice? I realized that I had never actually asked myself this question. I can't stay in Lyre. I can't go back to Aaron after what's happened. Even if I did, I'm not sure what I would do. This feels like the only path I can take. It's a path I'm supposed to take. There's nothing for me back in Aaron. I can't stay in Lyre either. My only option is to go to Driz and figure everything out. Lyle continues to stare into the fire, his ears back and his tail limp. He's as still as a statue. Then he breaks the silence, looking up at me with a determined gaze. I'll come with you. Hearing him say this takes a weight off of my chest that I didn't even know was there. Thank you. I know that you might feel like you have a certain duty to fulfill with me, but I need to know something. What is it? If you didn't have any honorable obligations to be by my side, would you still stay with me? Forever. He looks down, a sad expression on his face. I have abandoned my vows. Raynar is dead and Adrius killed him. I'll never see my mother or father again, most likely. I'm wanted for treason and murder, so the sooner I leave Lyre, the better. Wherever you go, I'll go. Murder? He takes a deep breath and interlocks his fingers. I wanted to tell you. His voice is shaking. What are you talking about? What happened? I told you how the headsman helped me escape, correct? Yes? He wasn't the only one who I came across down there. He starts rubbing his eyes, trying to dry tears that are beginning to form. Takes another deep breath and continues. There was a castle guard assisting him. He was going to alert the other guards. Stopping him was the only thing I could think of. I had to save you. I swung my sword into the back of his head, almost decapitating him and killing him instantly. I didn't even know his name. It just happened so fast. I had to act. I had to... He doesn't notice that I've gotten up and sat down next to him until I hug him from the side. I can feel his large body trembling as he tries to stifle a sob. Remember when we spoke in the gardens? You said we grow up being taught to feel a certain way about things, yet after a while we become numb to those things? Even if it's in our nature? Yes, I remember. My mind shut down as well. The part that scares me, though, is how quickly I was able to get over it. There's something wrong with me. Lyle. Hang on, let me scoot in. You did what you had to do. Raynar tasked you with protecting me, and you strive toward that goal through every obstacle. I'd never killed someone before. He's now violently shaking and sobbing into his paws. I hated it! But that's the worst part. No matter how much I hated it, I'd do it all over again if it meant protecting you. We're gonna stop a bit for the ad. Want to break from the ads. We're gonna Spotify. Am I back? I just want to bury my face into his neck fluff. Just... He leans into me, holding me tight. Because I love you, Richter. He continues to cry while holding me, and I realize I've never seen him this distraught before. I love you too, Lyle. We sit there in silence for a few minutes, the only sound being the rustling of the tree leaves. I watch as little bugs fly around us, their tails lit up with a blue glow. After a few more minutes of silence, Lyle mumbles something to me. Can I tell you something? Of course. He takes another deep breath and calms down, his voice still trembling. A while back, whenever I had the time in the mornings or the afternoon, I would go on these long walks up the coast of the fjord. I'd either watch the sun rise over the waters on the horizon, or set behind the castle and the mountains behind it. I took these walks whenever I wanted to think. I'd go very far up the cliffs most of the time so I could see the land around me. No matter how high I went, it always seemed so small. He pulls away from our embrace, resting his elbows on his knees. I enjoyed watching the sunset the most. I'd always look off to the east and dream of being able to travel far beyond those mountains. Beyond the snowy forests, the rolling hills and the countryside. He pokes a stick into the fire aimlessly, watching the flames dance around the disturbance he's making. When I was knighted, I thought I had finally achieved everything I had wanted. However, with each day that passed, I considered leaving it all behind, abandoning my vows and running off somewhere far away. I could become a sellsword or work as a hired guard. Then I would be free to do whatever I wanted. I'm glad I never left, because then I never would have met you. You give me purpose. You make me happy. Above all, I want to go everywhere with you. I place my hand on him and pet him a little, rubbing his back side to side. I want that too. But there was a reason you stayed even before I came here, wasn't there? He taps the stick into one of the rocks surrounding the fire pit, pieces of burnt wood crumbling away from the tip. Tears stain the fur of his cheeks, his eyes wet and puffy. Of course there was. I had a family here. There was no blood relation, but that didn't matter to me. Raynar was like a father to me. He was dedicated to my training. Not only that, but he would specifically invite me to dine with him and the other Ossians on more than one occasion.
He taught me things that I never would have learned without him. Don't laugh, but when I was younger, I had difficulty reading and writing. I still do sometimes. The words didn't make much sense to me, and I'd mix them up. My father didn't pay it any mind, not really seeing it as a major issue that needed to be corrected. Raynar did, however. He would sit down with me a few days a week, and we would practice. I never truly got over it, but he helped me a lot. I guess I'm telling you all this because they all meant a lot to me. Even Adrius. He was like the little brother I never had. He tosses the stick into the fire and one of the logs falls, sending sparks into the air. Oh, hiya, Pack. Hiya. Elena was like a mother for everyone, considering she was the queen, but she and I were fairly close as well. She was good friends with my mother, too. When I was very, very young, I remember Raynar and Elena came up to Randolphwood to visit. I remember being confused as to who the strange woman was and why my mother acted like she was her sister. It was great. I'm realizing you hadn't talked about your parents much. Lord Marcus Reed and Lady Ilvia Reed. Yes. What are they like? My father is a fair and honorable man, yet can also be very loud. My mother is stern and bold, yet can also be the kindest woman you've ever met. She made that tartan over there. He points to the cloth sitting on top of his cape. It was actually my swaddling cloth when I was a baby. It's tradition for a Reed to wear it into battle. We do it to honor our parents. I love them both dearly, and I hope to one day see them again. If I ever get the chance. Do all wolves' eyes turn yellow when they're angry? He bites his lip in embarrassment. It happens with most Lyrian wolves, yes. Specifically the Reeds. Nobody has an explanation for it. Both of my parents had the same thing. I once got my mother so angry her eyes were like gold coins. It scared the piss out of me. Do you think Adrius could turn them against you? Lyle belts out a short guffaw. He couldn't turn them against me no matter what he decides to tell them. Excluding them from the trial due to bias was already a slight against them. It's not like I was the one on trial. Well... He presses a finger to my lip to shush me, which makes my eyes widen. I realize he's trying to be funny, so I let him continue. My parents still love and respect me, even after revealing myself to be homosexual. I'm sure falling in love with a regicidal maniac is just as tolerable, wouldn't you agree? Good God. Is that how everyone sees me? The way they see it, you killed one king and then punched the next one in the face. After that, you're either crazy or really dedicated to getting a death sentence as fast as possible. Yeah. The last king deserved that punch! Lyle chuckles to himself, shaking his head. That he did. I wish I'd stuck around to see more. If you did, then we probably wouldn't be standing here. He concedes with a slight huff from his nose. I take it back then. He rocks back and forth in his seated position, then stands up, brushing off his pants with his paw. Do you think you are well enough to travel in the morning? If I can get some decent food in my stomach again, sure. Where are we going aside from the destination? Well, we're north of Hailing Cove right now. I'd like to stop there before we head further south, just in case there's anything else we might need. I'm not sure if it's safe for you to be seen there, so I'll probably leave you with Finley. Shouldn't take more than an hour, so we should be fine. After that, we'll keep heading south. There's a river with a fork just before Ardglass. We'll make our way down along the base of the mountains and cross at the area before it forks. I'll need to find a part that's shallow enough for Finley to carry you across, and I don't want to take the main road. He rattles off all of these locations in places without stopping to take a breath. I almost wonder if he has the entire map of Tigran memorized. If anybody did, he would. Once we cross, we'll make our way further south to Galemore Wood. That should give us some cover. How long will it take us to get there? If we continue to travel light and waste no time, it should take us a few weeks at best. He brushes the fur around his neck with his paws while he thinks. You should get some rest. You're going to need it, and I can't have you sleeping on Finley. If you fell off, I'd be laughing too hard to be able to forgive myself. I've been resting for a week. I don't even feel tired. He nods his head towards the bedroll and sighs. Rest. Even if it's only for a little bit. Looking over at the bedroll, I remember how cozy it was. Helps me realize just how chilly I am. Fine. I stand up and carefully step around the campfire, making my way to the bedroll. I sit down on it and look up at Lyle. He's standing on a rock leaning against the walls of the cliff.
I look around and notice that there's no bed for him. Are you going to sleep as well? He looks down at me and gives me a tired smile. I'll be fine. Remember, I don't sleep much. It's you humans who enjoy doing it all the time. Oh, yeah. I guess that's true. Still, where have you been sleeping? He points to a spot next to me just by the fire. There's a bag propped up against a rock that I assume he was using as a pillow of sorts. Oh. Whenever I was sleeping, it was over there. I imagine him resting by my side, waiting and hoping for me to wake up. He was probably so worried throughout the past week. Wonder how long he would have waited. I'm going to go get some more wood to add to the fire. I don't want you getting cold throughout the night. He jumps down from the rocks and heads over to where Finley was hitched. There's plenty of branches lying on the ground over there, so he shouldn't have a problem. Looking around, I noticed the same book that I'd seen earlier. Its pages float gently in the breeze, and I realize there's small drawings on them. Did Lyre bring a sketchbook? That's actually really sweet. I know it's silly, but things like that are the reasons why I like him so much. I pick up the sketchbook and close it to keep everything safe. When I do, a loose page sticks out the side. Opening it back up, I pull the drawing out and realize what it is. It's a portrait of me. My eyes are closed and my hair is long and sprawled out, falling down around my head in thick curls. Do I really look like that with a beard? Run my hand over the rough, prickly surface of my chin. Maybe I should keep it. I look so old. Being in the dungeons might have caused that. I drew that a few days ago. Lyre stands on the other side of the fire pit. I didn't even notice him making his way over. I'm sorry. You look so peaceful and... Don't be sorry. It's very good. He blushes a bit and gives a sheepish smile. Thank you. I hand him the sketchbook and go to lay down on the bedroll. Before I can slip under the top layer, a thought crosses my mind. I want him to lay with me. I want him to hold me in his arms and share this bedroll with me. He's going to urge me to sleep, then I want him to join me. We can finally have what we didn't get that night. We can claim what was taken from us. Lyre? Yes, Richter? Would you care to join me in bed? He cocks an eyebrow for a split second, then smiles, a slight puff of breath releasing from his nose as he snickers to himself. You're in no state for that kind of fun, Richter. I'm absolutely certain I'd break you in two. Not that! I just want you to sleep by my side. I want you to hold me. Lyre stops laughing and a blush spreads across his face. But what about keeping watch? Someone has to stay. I guess I could just... Okay. He takes in a deep breath. Yes, I suppose we can do that. With no clothes. Alright. Lyre walks over to one of the bags and begins taking off his shirt. As he does this, I take off my clothes too. Once I have it pulled over my head, I throw it over in the direction of Lyle's armor. It lands on top of his pauldron in a wad, and I reach down to start unfastening my trousers. Once those are loosened, I lay on my back and stick my legs in the air, pulling each pant down around my ankles. I pull each of my feet out and throw the pants off to the side. I lay back on the bedroll and look over at Lyre. Hold up. Yeah, that is cake. He's wearing just his underwear, bent over, stuffing his wadded up clothes into the rucksack. His big tail sways back and forth, resting on top of his ample armor. Wait. Resting on top of his ample rear. His rear. Yeah, I'll show it for a little bit, but then I'm pulling the sensor back up. His underwear leaves little to the imagination. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'd almost forgotten how great your ass is. And I'd forgotten how forward you can be. I mean it! What did you do to get your legs so big? He bites his lip, then answers, running. And I mean a lot of running. Also footwork. Really? Oh yes. Put a sword in a man's hand and you'll find it's his legs that do most of the work. He says this and slaps his thigh with his right paw. The surface ripples slightly, and I can tell from the firmness that there's plenty of muscle underneath all of that fur. I haven't seen him in this light since that fateful night, but there's something different, though. Now I'm able to notice all the little details about his body. The way his shoulders are adorned with large tufts of fur, which then run down his back. The slight pudge to his stomach when he's rested. The way his chest rises and falls with each breath he takes, no matter how relaxed. His thighs are wide with muscle, showing off just how strong his legs are. I don't pay attention to his feet often, but with the way they're shaped, I wonder how hard it is to walk on paws. He doesn't seem to have an issue with it, though. Like what you see? Very much, yes. He walks around the fire, the light casting a bright glow onto him, showing off every curve and every chiseled muscle. He kneels down in front of me and looks over my body, raising a paw to run through my hair. I lean into his touch, letting him caress my face in his large paw. As he does, I run my hand up and down his muscular arm, feeling the density of his forearm and the curves of his bicep. He shudders as I do this, giving me a feeling of dominance that I'm not used to with having with men of his size. Being able to pleasure him with something as simple as touch fills me with pride. All I want to do is make him happy. How did you want to lay down? Oh, I was thinking something like this. I take his paws and lean back onto the bedroll, pulling him down by my side as I do. I situate myself in front of him and nestle myself into his waist. My back presses up against his chest and stomach, the latter acting as a cushion. I mean this as a compliment, but you're a lot softer than you look. Hang on, stretching my back. I don't look soft. I wasn't talking about the fur. I nudge him in the belly as I say this. Oh! I suppose I have been eating a bit more lately. I'm trying to keep my energy up. I like it. It makes this all the more enjoyable. I shimmy into him like a big furry blanket. Ha! Well, it's only going to get better from here. Why's that? When I was a guard, I had to follow a somewhat strict diet. Well, I didn't have to, but as captain, I figured it was best that I follow the same rules as everyone else. Set a good example. And now you don't have to? He chortles to himself, the shot of breath rushing over my head. Now I don't have to. He hugs me tighter. I'm only going to get bigger, too. How so? You may have stopped growing at 16, but unlike humans, the rest of us don't really hit our maximum height until our mid-20s. I'll be a whole head taller in a couple years. Really? Mm-hmm. That's how tall my father is. I'm going to need heeled boots. Though he had a bit of a gut. He says this last part under his breath, chuckling to himself. I'll love you either way. Still, that's pretty tall. Mr. Developer, if you're watching this, and I don't know if you're here live or if you're going to watch the YouTube version or if you're even going to watch either, but if you're hearing this, can we please have an epilogue of just Lyle and Richter just vibing, just fucking vibing. That's it. That's all. So that's pretty tall. Hopefully I can keep up. He pats my hand with his paw. Richter, you don't have to worry about a thing. The bigger I am, the easier it will be to shield you. As is my sworn duty. He says that last part with the posh inflection to his voice, getting a laugh out of me. Pulling me tighter into his warm embrace, he scoots back and tugs me against him. Okay, hang on. Yeah, I can show this. I can show this. You know what I mean? Still pulling the sensor back up, though. He's soft and warm, his long neck fur falling down around my upper body as he leans forward, resting his head above mine. I can feel his warm breath fall down around the back of my neck as he lets out a peaceful sigh. My hair rests against the top of the bedroll, the long curls spreading out among the leathery surface. I should have my hair cut soon. Maybe Lyle could help me with that. As we settle into our positions, he clears his throat and whispers into my ear. I wish we had gotten to do this all those weeks ago. I sometimes lie awake at night and wonder how things would have gone if you stayed with me in my room. You could have just never answered the door, pretended we weren't there, lie under the covers and continue to enjoy the rest of our night. I wish we had. I wish we would have been met with a terrible tragedy in the morning, but is it selfish for me to wish for an outcome where we would have been blissfully ignorant? He pauses to think for a moment, running his paw along my thigh slowly. I'm not sure. After all we've been through, what you've been through, I don't think it is. I just wish moments like these could last forever. No interruptions. He softly chuckles and pats my thigh with his paw. So do I. We lie there for a few more minutes, listening to the fire crackle and the leaves blowing in the wind. Lyle? I don't get a response. His soft snoring clues me into the fact that he's now fast asleep. I scoot further into him and close my eyes, letting him surround me. Before I relax into the light amount of sleep I plan to get, a thought crosses my mind. Counting the days I was in the dungeons was easy until after the trial, but if it's been a week since we escaped, it must be somewhere around the 20th of Nox. I turned 20 a few days ago.
Oh shit!
No matter how comfortable I am, I'm only able to sleep for a short while. I expected this, considering how much I've already rested so far. Feels like it was maybe 3 or 4 hours of sleep at best. Still, I lay there with my eyes closed, Lyle still wrapped tightly around me. I held his paw as he gently snores, trying not to wake him. It's weird sleeping next to someone like this. It's a very intimate thing, but I'm also trying my hardest not to wake him. The fire crackles quietly as we lay there, the heat falling down on us in gentle waves. I open my eyes for a moment. When I'm about to close them again, I spot something out of the corner of my eye. Through gaps in the trees, I'm able to see the entire sky is lit up with bright blue and green light. Each ray dances through the night sky, casting a colorful glow over each star. It's as if the sky had caught fire, engulfed in blue flames. Lyle. I nudge his arm with my elbow, trying to wake him carefully. Lyle! I feel him jolt and he rises in his reclined position. What is it? He's alert now, his ears tilting side to side as I roll over to look at him out of the corner of my eye. Look at the sky. He looks up and a smile grazes his face. Oh, what's happening with it? This always happens during this time of year. All of the Northerners know them as the Flames of Tigran. They're pretty, huh? Yes, they are. He rests his paw down by my forearm, but I pull it back and have him hold my hand. He lays back on the bedroll and I lay down on top of him. His big furry chest is one of the nicest pillows I've ever used. The North is more different from the West than I thought it would be. So many traditions and odd phrases I've never heard of. I think back to when Lyle was enraged earlier and start yelling in what sounded like a different language. Yeah. They still nakes. Earlier you were speaking words I've never heard before. Was that some old Lyrian language? Takes a moment to answer and clicks his tongue against the roof of his mouth. It's actually a language that predates Lyre. It's called Lyran. Lyran? Hearing him say it, I think I can recall reading about it in an old tome. The reeds are descended from an ancient people called the Lyre. Is that why the kingdom was named Lyre? There's been some controversy around the idea, but it's what most people believe to be true. The language isn't commonly used anymore, but the reeds still teach it for certain reasons. Reasons mostly rooted in tradition. He mumbles this as his cheek presses into the bedroll. Can you say something in Lyran? I'm not as fluent as you might think. I haven't been around anyone who speaks it in over a decade. I only know certain words or phrases. And a lot of swear words. Please? Fine. He clears his throat, slightly lifting his head from the padded cloth, then proceeds to give voice to several different words. They come out in a pitch accent and sound very sing-song. It's almost like he's reading poetry. How's pretty? What does it mean? That was a knight's vow. Like I said, I only know some words and phrases. Could you teach me someday? He pulls me in a bit closer in size. Sure I could. One day, love. We stare up at the sky, watching as the lights dance across the stars. Violet, blue, and green. The lights shimmer and change before our eyes in ways I couldn't even imagine. Makes sense these are called the Flames of Tigran. They remind me of the flames that jump along their shoulders and back. I realize that I haven't thought about using the mind's eye at all. Even if I could, I doubt I'd want to. It's nice to not have to worry about using it to save my skin. It's nice to just lay here in Lyle's arms. Even with the royal army breathing down our necks, being on the run like this is preferable to being trapped in that cell. It's nice to just feel safe. After a while, the lights dissolve into the rest of the night sky, and the stars are a bit more visible. I roll over onto Lyre, who grunts as I do, but happily brings me into a deep embrace. I look at our bodies, his large and covered in fur, mine a bit smaller with only skin and some hair. A relationship like ours, I don't see it as anything but beautiful. There's something about it that's so special to me. We're so different from each other in many ways, but it makes everything so much better. I can't understand how anyone in Lyre could see something like this and think wrongly of it. I suppose that's the problem. All they see is what's on the outside. They base everything off of their surface-level knowledge. They'll never truly know the love we have for one another, and how it continues to grow and flourish. Each day, it becomes stronger. I've doubted myself before, but now I know what love is. As I lay there thinking about our differences, I realize that it might be our downfall. Two of us are currently trying to avoid anybody noticing us, yet we're not exactly a duo that blend into a crowd. A large wolfman and a human traveling together is not very common in these parts. Humans alone aren't common at all. Lyle, yes, love? I was just thinking about how much the two of us stand out in a crowd. Do you have any way to help me stand out less? Maybe some clothes to help hide my identity? I already get stared at plenty just for being a human in this kingdom. I'm afraid if I'm with you, someone is bound to recognize us. He shuffles in his rested position, and I get up, turning around and instead straddling his waist, looking down at him. Don't worry, I thought of that too. He points up to the lantern hanging on the clothesline. Once we put that fire out, it's going to get pretty cold. I got you some traveling clothes from Hailing Cove while I was out there. He points to the rucksack sitting on one of the rocks. I didn't know your size, but I'm pretty sure they should fit you just fine. There's a scarf and a coat, too, so they should keep you warm. I rub his cheek in a loving manner. You're so thoughtful. I've also made some preparations for other ways to hide your identity. I lean back a bit, raising an eyebrow. Like what? First, I was thinking I could give you a haircut. Oh, I was actually thinking that too. My hair has gotten a bit too long for my taste. Still, unless you plan on shaving my head, I don't see how that would hide my identity. That's the other thing. I picked up the necessary, reagents. That's the word. I picked up the necessary reagents to dye your hair a different color. Dye my hair? Yes, simple yet lengthy process, but I learned all about it from a very nice lady in town. She works with cutting and dyeing fur, and she told me how to do it and what to get. Are you on? Ah! You'll have to thank her if we ever see her again. And if it turns out like she said it would? Lyle wants to dye my hair. That's strange, but I'm not too turned off by the idea, as long as it's not permanent. Sure, we can try that. Are you sure you know how to do it? He puts his paws behind his head, resting into the softer part of the bedroll. It shouldn't be any harder than maintaining all of this. He says this while nodding down to the fur around his neck. After a while, I just started cutting it myself. I've always wanted to style hair for someone. Heard about all of the crazy things humans do with their hair. It's a lot easier to work with than fur. When do you want to do it? He closes his eyes, letting out a deep sigh, reclining into the bedroll. Give me a few more minutes to rest, and I'll get up and get everything ready. I'm too comfortable right now. And you sitting on my lap isn't helping. No. I still won't be able to. Let me tell you why. Because let me you know what? Let me show you why. Let me fucking show you why. Hang on, let me turn on a light. Let me turn on the goddamn light. Turn on faster. There we go. Okay. So, here's why. Let me just... Yeah. No, turn it on. I turned it on. Get down, you fuck. This, because I imagine Richter is going to fucking just keep his hair, like, dyed all. And mine is fucking just the tips. It is a pain in the ass to maintain. This hair, even with, like, the side cut, even with the side shave, which I need to redo that. Fucking tips. Fucking... To all the straight people, I'm your waifu Nezuko. I'm the fat, gay male Nezuko. which is exactly why I'm loud as fuck. I am loud as fuck. But no, like, okay. My hair is a pain in the ass to maintain. My hair is a pain in the ass. Because, like... Okay. First off, the dyed part, it's fucking dead. It is dead as fuck. Because I already said this, but, like, when I was going through the initial bleaching... No, because growing out that hair took me fucking 2.5 years. It took me 2.5 years to get that length. But the initial bleaching fucked up my hair. It fucked it up. It almost caught fire. My hair almost caught fire. And that killed it. Because, like, when you bleach hair, you obviously expect a bit of heat. It's going to be a harsh chemical... It's a harsh chemical reaction. It's a harsh chemical reaction. So, you expect there to be a lot of damage, and you expect heat. Well, it turns out the bleach that we used, I'm allergic to. We since switched to a different bleach, and my hair is just dead as hell. It's dead. It's dead. Not the first time that happened. Once my hair actually did catch fire. That was years ago. Like, leaned over. Yeah, we're not twinning. I feel bad now. I mean, if I bleached all my hair, which I have considered doing, I have considered just bleaching all of it. And then I dye it. I don't know. I'd probably dye, like, fucking blue or some shit. I don't fucking know. It's currently red. You sitting on my lap isn't helping. But, back to the story. Actually, back to the story. I could be here all night. Ha. Put a bit more of my weight down on him. Rest a bit longer then. I lean down and rest my head against his chest again, and he places his paw on my head. Just know, I think your hair is pretty just the way it is. Thank you. I love you, Lyre. He squeezes me tight and kisses the top of my head. You have no idea how happy it makes me when you say that. I love you too, Richter. Adrius. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. There is. Okay, no more censor. Okay. There's a little bit more, I think. If this... I don't know. Sitting on the sofa in his room, Adrius rests his elbows on his knees, staring at the floor with a tired face. He holds a glass of water in his hands, a small amount left at the bottom. He closes his eyes, trying to subdue the headache pounding away at his skull. Home's End. Surely Liz understands why he wants to take action. Still, Driz is once again making things difficult. Another painful bout of pressure beats at the side of his head. Richter. It's only a matter of time before the Heart's cavalry track them down and capture them. Time that Adrius will enjoy. Still, Adrius keeps asking himself the same question over and over. How did Richter know of the passage behind the fireplace? And his eyes? The way they changed color in the dungeon. He's hiding something. Those eyes aren't just changing color. Welcome back! Okay, they were unlike any eyes he'd ever seen before. Each pupil was shining as if lit with an unnatural flame. They pulled him in like a whirlpool. Adrius takes a sip of water, tipping the glass back and emptying it down his throat. Knowing of the fireplace was advantageous, but there was something else that helped him. He sets the glass to the side, the cup rolling on the cushion of the couch. It's painful how guiltless you are, or how oblivious you choose to be. And so I wonder, what has you so afraid? Adrius stands down from his seat, walking towards the window in a huff. Leave me alone. I'm sick of you. Not until you stop lying to yourself. I said leave me alone! He shouts this into a mirror across the room, resting his arm on the pane of the window and looking down at the ramparts below. You're nervous. No, Don't lie to me! You can't. Why are you nervous? Adrius steps away from the window, giving his reflection one last look before turning to the mirror. There, standing on the other side, he sees him.
Deep down, you've always been nervous. You've also been holding back.
I'm not holding back.
Yes, you are. You're doing no favors for Holmes, and by dancing around your decisions.
Adrius turns away from the mirror, resting his hands on the back of the sofa. I'm done listening to you. I know what I'm doing.
Oh, really? The way I see it, you need a good refresher. Something to jog your memory.
Adrius hears him approach from behind, the hoofs thumping against the floor at a slow pace.
Avenging our mother is merely the prize of this crusade. We're going to restore this kingdom to its former glory.
Furthermore, I need you by my side when we do. I'm the one who got us everything so far. So I can't have you messing things up as we take the steps towards our destiny. Adrius grips the cushions, getting angrier by the second. After how you handled the situation, Father, I'd say it's you who's sabotaging everything. After what you did... Adrius whirls around, facing the mirror once more. After what we did.
I'm tired of your delusions and your denial. Betrayal never comes from your enemies, but from those closest to your heart, and from those who hold you back. That was a necessary step that we took towards a brighter future. You're wasting our time by postponing everything. He takes a deep breath, then exhales, blowing it out of his mouth in an exhausted manner. Everything will be fine if you just let me help you. Before we can do that, however, you need to kill that part of you that's holding us back. I've seen you discard it before, so there's no issue there.
He tuts while shaking his head.
Had I known you were going to be such a problem, I would have never put our ambitions in the hands of an ingenuous fool like yourself.
Adrius turns on his hoof and walks back over to the couch, his face twitching with anger. You're the fool here.
And yet, here you stand. Weak and spineless, just like him.
Just like Father. Shut up! Adrius reaches down, grabbing the glass and turning around, hurling it at the mirror. The glass careens into the mirror, bursting through the reflective surface with a crash. Some shards fall to the ground, yet the mirror mostly remains intact. Several reflections appear before him, showing different parts of his face or body depending on the angle. It's hard to see him through the tears. There's a quiet knock at the door which snaps him out of a state of shock. Quickly drying his tears, Adrius leans in the direction of the door, his eyes still trained on the shards of mirror laying on the ground. Who is it? Gerhard, Your Majesty. It's unlocked. Let yourself in. I would, but my hands are full. If your grace would be so kind as to let me in, I would greatly appreciate it. Adrius walks to the door and pulls it open with some trepidation. Gerhard stands at the entrance, carrying a large crate. Thank you, Your Majesty. Adrius steps to the side as Gerhard walks in. Where would you like me to put this? What's in there? Adrius looks over to the box, realizing it's not only big but heavy. Clothes for your room. I can have them placed in your wardrobe for you. Yet your late father's clothes should still be adequate, though some may be a bit large. I could help you look through them if you'd like. Gerhard sets the crate down by the wardrobe with a loud thud, rubbing his back. That's all right, Gerhard. I'll go through them myself in a moment. Very well. Would that be all? Yes, thank you. Adrius notices Gerhard looking at the shards of mirror on the floor. I tripped. Gerhard doesn't acknowledge it and walks towards the door, passing Adrius. Shall I have someone come up to clean up the mess? Yes, that'll be fine, thank you. Here, I'll get it. Let me just go down and boop. Wop. Boop. And just to be safe. Wait. Can I ban him from here? Fuck, I can't ban him from here. Raj, real quick, or any literally any mod, can you ban that guy? Suspicious Licks with a Z. Yes, that would be fine, thank you. Gerhard makes his way to the door and slides his hand along the side, beginning to close it. Gerhard. He stops closing the door and leans back in. Yes, Your Majesty. Adrius taps his hoof while looking at the ground, mustering the words. Thank you for everything you've done. Oh my god, thank you, Amethyst. Thank you. I won't forget it. No need to thank me, Your Majesty. I'm forever in your service. Once Gerhard closes the door, Adrius shakes his head and makes his way over to the crate. He opens the lid and finds a dozen stacks of neatly folded clothes. He recognizes most of them as being outfits he would wear on occasion, or even a pair of black robes lined with golden embroidery. His father had pushed him to wear that outfit many times for special occasions. Most of the clothes are dyed in his family colors, but there are a few that diverge from this trend. He takes a few stacks out of the crate and places them inside the doors of the wardrobe. Before he can reach for another set, he sees an ensemble lying at the bottom of the wardrobe. It looks like they might have been his father's clothes. What's odd is that they're not big enough to be something Raynar would have worn recently. Not too old-fashioned either. There's another knock at the door as Adrius sets the outfit on the sofa. Come in and be quick about it.
Your Majesty, it's Leaf.
Adrius turns to the door, cocking an eyebrow. Leaf, come in. Leaf pushes the door open and shuffles into the room timidly. Hi, Burb.
Adrius.
What is it, Leaf? I assume this has something to do with the prosthetic you commissioned. I don't think I'll be hearing back from you until then. Leaf holds his wings together, wringing them slightly as he stutters out the words.
Yes, the prosthetic is finished and ready. Plated with gold and perfect weight.
Excellent. Where is it?
It's, there's something else I need to tell you.
Adrius sits down on the sofa and pinches the bridge of his nose. What's wrong? Your voice always trembles like that when something's wrong. Leaf bounces his leg where he stands, nervously fiddling with his gloves. Go ahead and spit it out!
Adrius, I'm so sorry to have to tell you this. I did everything I could, but after the initial treatment's out of my hands, there's nothing I can do.
Adrius slams his hands onto the cushion of the sofa, standing up and shouting at Leaf. He walks towards him, which causes Leaf to take a few steps back. Tell me!
After a week of tests and research, I've come to a dreadful conclusion. Your antler will not grow back.
The room falls completely silent. The two of them stand there like statues, not moving a single muscle. Leaf's weak voice finally breaks the silence, the noise hitting the walls and clinging to them.
Adrius?
Adrius turns calmly and walks back over to the sofa, sitting down on it. He runs his hand over the vest of the outfit resting on the cushion. He takes a deep breath and speaks. Tell Liz to come and see me at her convenience. I need to send some letters. Ha! Ha! Get fucked, Adrius! Richter. You all dressed? Wait, did I read right, Richter? You all dressed? I holler over my shoulder at him, stuffing the clothes I was previously wearing into the bottom of the rucksack so they're out of the way. Yes, just putting away my old clothes. These are really comfortable. I'm glad you like them. The camp is starting to feel a little less cozy as a fire pit is now just a pile of charred logs and smoke. If it wasn't for the warm clothes, I'd probably be freezing. Most of the little things are packed away, so we just need to put everything back on Finley. Bye, Amethyst. Ah! You'll have to sit in front of me since he's going to carry everything on his saddlebags and back. I'll also need to carry one of the bags in your lap. Sure. I bend down and start picking up a few things lying around camp. Actually, wait. Before I do any of that, I want to show you something. I set what I'd picked up so far back on the ground and brush from my hands. He doesn't move and stares back at me until I break the silence. What? Sorry, I'm just admiring your hair. I don't mean to brag, but it looks a lot better than I thought it would. I wish I had a mirror, but I'll take your word for it. Lyle walks to the edge of camp and stopping at one of the trees. Come on, you're gonna like this. He continues walking and I leap over one of the rocks, landing in the grass and running forward to catch up to him. The shoes Lyle got for me feel very nice. The inside feels like a cloud wrapped around my foot and they're close to my size. It must have been hard for him to find a cobbler in a city like Hailing Cove. Catching up to him, I follow behind at a steady pace as he pushes his way through the trees. There's a glade up ahead. We should be able to see the sun rising over the eastern mountains. As I walk by his side, my feet crunching against the frigid grass and branches, I can't help but feel a bit nervous. Soon we're going to begin our journey across most of Lyre. I'm scared, uncertain, and feel a slight sense of danger. I know I can do this, though. We can do this. We make our way out of the glade, the trees dusted with a light amount of snow. The morning fog parts and we stand before a large field which spans all the way up to the horizon. I can see the light of the sun being cast into the sky behind the peaks of the mountain. Views like this often remind me. Even once the sun sets, you can always count on it to rise again in the morning. I walk forward, the grass moving in waves along the ground. The tree line behind us rustles and a cold breeze blows through my hair, sending a chill over my face. The scenery is freeing. It's beautiful. Yeah. You seem nervous. I chuckle at his question, not exactly sure how to answer it. Nervous. Something like that. Last time I felt this way was when I became a kestrel. Lyle takes a step forward and speaks with a curious tone to his voice. What's a kestrel? I opened my mouth as if to give an answer. I come to the realization that I don't have a reply. Ugh, fuck. I can't speak. As I stand on the edge of the tree line, mouth agape, those feelings from earlier seem to drift away on the winds. They're instead replaced with determination, optimism, and hope. Above all, I don't feel lost. I don't feel chained down. I don't know. Why did I say that? Before my mind can linger on what I'd said and why I'd said it, an odd feeling overcomes me. Then, Lyle tackles me with a hug from behind, leaning down and kissing me on the top of my head. I lean into his touch and he gives me a tight squeeze before stepping back and walking to my side. Ah, shit! Are you alright? I think I am. I'm not sure what comes next. After finding this temple and completing my training, what even comes after that? I guess that's the beauty of it all. Whatever happens, as long as it's with you, it'll be worth it. Ah, shit. That is Lyre Book 1. Right there. Right there, Lyre Book 1. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for Book 2. We're gonna watch the credits. We gotta watch the credits. Wait, I should probably pull up a quick censor. Because I don't know if they're going to show the NSFW. They don't! They don't. Ah. I don't know. At Mac, you did an amazing job. Obviously, future Lyre books are not going to be up for a vote. We're just going to do them as they come out. Oh. That's sad. That is book 1! I'm not really in the mood to raid someone. But no. Ah! Fucking right? Wait. Is the third book going... Assuming there is a third book, is the third book going to be called Aaron? I'm genuinely curious. No. Real quick, before we stop, I'm just going to say this. Future books for this game, I will not hold a vote for. As soon as they come out, we are playing it. Well, I mean, this is the last book. Well, no, this is the ending of book 1. But no, I am dead serious. I am not holding a vote. I am not holding a vote for it. As soon as Driz comes out, we are playing it. Right then and there, we are going to play it, and we are going to love it because it is amazing. It is going to be amazing, and we are going to love it. And we are going to love it because it is amazing. Okay? That is my take on it. That is how we're doing stuff. That is how we're doing shit. That is how I want to do things, and hopefully you're all fine with it because that is how we're doing things. Anyways, stay safe. Have a good night. And I will see you all tomorrow or later today, depending on the time zone.